443 An Introduction to God, Torah Mizmowr, Torah's Song. 10. Hineh, pay attention. You are here. If you are a Yahud, Yahowah has a message for you that you need to hear. It is not encouraging. His prophet's portrait of what Jews have become is humiliating and shameful. And the source of this rebuke is unimpeachable. Like so many others, I admire Moses and could feast on his Torah between now and Yah's return. I have been accused of having a bromance with Dowd because I find his life and lyrics to be inspiring, especially as he waxes poetic about his relationship with Yahowah throughout his Mizmowr and Marshal. But I sense a special kinship with Yasha'yah, almost as if I am serving as his apprentice, a latter-day witness to the pertinence of the prophecies. It is as if they were written for this moment in time. In Yasha'yah's words, we find a retelling of Israelite history, explaining how God's people ended up in such a deplorable place. We learn about the great intermission when Yahowah and his Torah were concealed from Yahweh, all because they had proven that they could not be trusted. But then, in the midst of chastising Israel's political and religious leadership, Yasha'yah reveals that Yahowah's Shem, Torah, Varith, and Mikra will become known and appreciated once again. There will be a reunion. So, the questions linger: who will be there and how many will remain? 444 As we approach Yahowah's return with his son on the day of reconciliations, it has become obvious that the irritating and shrill voices of the rabbis will persist to the bitter end, and they will continue to blame everyone other than themselves, including God, for their plight. So, if we have learned anything up to this point, it is that Yahowah is not amused. While popes, cardinals, bishops, priests, pastors, gurus, and imams, spiritualists and influencers, will all feel the sting of divine retribution, there is a special place in Sheol, hell awaiting rabbis. Yasha'yah speaks vociferously of the time of Jacob's troubles. Life will get very dark before the arrival of the light. God's homecoming will, therefore, be a time of celebration and of anguish, depending upon one's perception of the Torah, its covenant and invitations. Yasha'yah's prophetic exposé is a referendum on religion versus relationship. One is condemned, while the other is extolled. As we move toward the next prophetic statement regarding the Torah, we are again confronted by the consequence of religion and how the institution has thwarted the Torah's purpose. After telling us that Yahowah will soon pass over the land like a bulldozer, destroying everything corrupt and perverted, religious and political, polluted and diseased, God reveals that the trash being swept away to clear the land for the celebration of Sukkah includes people, lots and lots of them. What I'm going to share is not pleasant, and that is because there is no longer any reason for Yahowah to be patient with his people, and he is not pleased. The era of man's control must end for the time of God's liberation to begin. As a reminder, Yahowah's response to the religious is not unexpected or unprovoked. The message preceding this rebuke has served as a warning, letting all who would listen 445 know that God hates religion because it misleads and degrades his people. Behold, right here and right now, Hineh, pay very close attention, Yahowah, will reconstitute a depopulated, Pakak, will plow through to re-establish healthy growth, clearing the way for luxuriant and profuse development again, Kal participle, land and the earth, Hires, the ground, soil, earth, region and all material realm, stripping it, Belok high, annihilating and disposing of what is there, Kal participle. So, he will stagger the perverse, Wa'awa, he will humble those who are depraved and perverted, Peel perfect, on its surface, Panahai, in her presence, scattering and removing, Wapools, overtaking, overwhelming, pushing out, and dispersing, Hyphal perfect, those who remain living there, Yashab high, her inhabitants, Kal participle. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates, Isaiah 24:1. The priests and their people, the lords and their workers, the maids and the mistresses, the buyers and sellers, and the lenders and debtors, the deceivers and the deluded, will all suffer the same fate. And it will be, Wahaya, it will come to exist at that moment in time, Kal perfect, as with, Ka, the priest and cleric, Ha-Kohen, the minister and religious leader. Note, the rabbis have replaced the Kohen in Judaism, likewise with the people, Ka-Ha-Am, so with the family of man and accordingly with the nation, as with, Ka, one who works and is controlled, Ebed, one who owns nothing, akin to a servant or slave who has few choices and who is not free, likewise with, Ka, those who control him. The lords who claim authorization over him, Ha-Down-Hu, those in positions of influence over him, the masters and elite of his government and industry who possess and own great wealth. Note, this is the title that Jews have used 446 to replace Yahowah's name, as with, Ka, the maid, Ha-Shifka, women in the workplace, likewise with, Ka, her mistress and boss, Ha-Gaberith high, the woman in authority over her, her lord and empowered ruler. As with, Ka, the buyer, Ha-Kana, the one who acquires things, likewise with, Ka, the seller, Ha-Makar, the maker and merchant, as with Ka, the lender, Ha-Lower, the capitalist and investor, so likewise with Ka, the borrower, Ha-Lower, the one bound to another financially, as with Ka, the one deceiving, Ha-Nasha, the clever charlatan who deludes, especially as a banker or moneylender, likewise with Ka-Asha, the debtor who is deluded, Nasha, the one obligated to pay for having been deceived, with him, Vahu. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates, Isaiah 24:2. This is something we'd be wise to acknowledge. Yes, those who have profited from religion will be devastated by God, but they will be taking believers down with them. The elite will be humbled but swept away. With them will be those they controlled, the deceived along with those who deluded them. Therefore, only those who have sought, and obtained liberation in the covenant and through the invitations will survive. The land and the earth, Ha-Eres, the ground, soil, earth, region and or material realm, will be substantially depopulated so that it can recover and grow again. Bakak will be swept clean to allow new growth, clearing the way for a productive and luxuriant environment. Nephil infinitive imperfect, because it has been plundered and spoiled, Bazaz, as it has been seized and preyed upon, subjected to countless battles and looted in the process with people and goods captured in the process. Nephil infinitive imperfect. This is certain because, Yahowah, Yahowah, has spoken, declaring, Dabar, has communicated and announced, Peel perfect, this message, Ethar Dabar Ha 447a, this specific account with these words. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates, Isaiah 24:3. Bakak was repeated, as was Bazaz, telling us that the verbs should be expressed to the maximum extent. In the case of Bakak, this affirms something expressed in Yahowah's opening statement where he used it to say he will reconstitute a depopulated earth, plowing and clearing it to re-establish healthy growth. This means that the reason that the religious and political, the patriotic and conspiratorial, are being removed and the earth is being depopulated is that he is returning the planet to the conditions experienced in Gan Eden, the garden of great joy. As we camp out with God during the 1,000-year celebration of Sukkah, beginning at sunset on the Shabat evening of October 7, 2033, the earth will be vibrant with new growth, the waters clean, and the skies clear. One of the reasons that Yahowah is cleaning house is explained through Bazaz. The earth has been plundered and spoiled by countless wars and far too many people have been enslaved by the victors. Should you believe that Yahowah is overreacting and that he has no right to clean his planet by depopulating the earth and sweeping man's debris away in preparation for camping out with his family, I would encourage you to consider this from his perspective. After all, it is his universe including the life within it. And he is responsible for the well-being of his family. Therefore, as long as he honors his promises, is consistent and correct, he can do with it and us as he sees fit. This is especially true since whatever life they have lived up to this point is a gift which would not have occurred had he not made it possible. In an entitlement world, it is hard for many to understand this concept, so let me try the following examples. If I were to find you hungry and were to share a fish with you that I caught each day for a week, but then 448 stopped when I saw you squandering it by letting it rot, I would not be depriving you of anything, even if you starved. Likewise, what if you were not working and I was gainfully employed, such that I decided to give you $1,000 a week? But then, what if I saw that even though you were capable of earning a living that you were more interested in buying drugs and alcohol, beating up your spouse, belittling your children, and stirring up trouble in the neighborhood? Wouldn't I be doing the decent people in the community a favor by no longer enabling your harassment of them? So, let's take it one step further. What if you smoked, drank, and ate yourself into a serious heart condition and I covered the considerable cost to keep you alive, sponsoring expensive operations and drugs, only to see you continue to smoke, drink, and eat too many unhealthy foods? Should I continue to support your depravity, or should I invest my time, energy, and money in doing something worthwhile in the community? God gave us this planet and we have polluted it. He gave us life and we have abused it. Time's up. He is done giving us the opportunity to ruin what he created. Second, as a father, Yahowah has the responsibility to protect his family. The rats that are scurrying around in his home are diseased. Should he allow them to stay, they will plague the people he has vowed to protect. Third, Yahowah has already told us what he wants, and that is to return to where we began our relationship with him in the Gan Eden. In it, the garden and relationship flourished without religion or politics and, thus, without deceit or dying. Sukkah is about our return to God and return to Eden. For a moment, set aside the justifications and the explanations. You now know what is going to occur, when it is going to happen, and why it will transpire as God has 449 vowed. If you are sufficiently interested in knowing Yahowah to have made it this far, I suspect that you are intelligent enough to be among the beneficiaries rather than victims on this day. Tell your friends and family that you are going to celebrate Yahowah's return, and that you'd encourage them to join us. If anything, God has been patient too long, giving mankind more than enough time to destroy the planet and all life upon it. The land is drying up and grieving and the earth is withered from being disrespected. Ha Eres Abal Nabal, the nation is in mourning and is lamentable while the region is dishonored by the foolish and stupid. Cal Perfect. The world, Tebel, the planet, is exhausted, preoccupied with sexual desire. Amal, is weak-willed and indecisive, pining away and shriveling up, in a state of decay from being treated with contempt. Nobel, withering as a result of being disrespected in a disdainful way. The people in the highest positions, the most exalted individuals, Malamam, the most advantaged and esteemed, the most arrogant and honored in life, on the earth and in the land, Ha Eres, will dwindle down to nothing and fade away. Amal, will burn with fever and wither away, weakened and failing. Paul Perfect, the subject of the verb endures the consequence of the action at this time. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates, Isaiah 24:4. God is not pleased with mankind's stewardship of the earth, and the first to be held accountable will be those in the loftiest of positions. The higher they are, the more precipitous will be their fall. 450 The land, Waha Eres, this is because the country, region, earth, and, or material realm, will become defiled and polluted. Shenef, will be corrupted and profaned, filthy and godless, idolatrous and common, under, Thaketh, beneath, her inhabitants, Yashab high, those who abide there and settle on it. This is because, ky, they will pass over and depart from, obar, they will pass by and go well beyond, seeking to obsolete, effectively overstepping and transgressing. Cal Perfect, the Torah, the source of teaching and instruction and the place from which direction and guidance flow. They will remove and discard, change and violate. Chalaf, they will have a new and different version to exchange which alters. Cal Perfect, the clearly communicated and written prescriptions of what we should do in life to live. Cook, the inscribed thoughts and engraved recommendations regarding life in the relationship. They will have broken and nullified, even come to disassociate from. Para, they have frustrated and thwarted the intent of while attempting to dissolve and revoke. They have violated, suspended, and negated the utility of, the everlasting and eternal, Olam, forever enduring, covenant relationship. Berith, the family-oriented compact, the nurturing relational agreement, the binding promise, solemn oath, and mutual alliance and pledge based upon family and home. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 24:5. Yes, the planet is polluted with filthy air, land, and seas to be sure, but it is also defiled with religion, politics, and conspiracy, each of which corrupts minds, hearts, and souls. God is going to rid the world he created of each. It is interesting that Yahowah used Obar as the verb to depict his people's departure from his Torah. They 451 have passed over it, overstepping it with their Talmud. It has been the will of the religious to make God's words obsolete by smothering them with their own. They have even come to observe Passover, which Obar serves to define, as if were a 7-day celebration of their history rather than the first day of Matzah, the mikra devoted to ridding souls of the festering fungus of religious pathogens. As a result, the rabbis have chalaf, altered God's prescriptions for living, discarding his guidance by replacing it with their own. They call their version Judaism, as defined within their Talmud, Mishnah, Zohar, and Halakha. Yahowah has affirmed that his covenant is olam, everlasting and eternal. Further, it is part of the Torah. The combination of these things in a prophetic verse forever eliminates the possibility of a Jewish Talmud or Christian New Testament. However, rather than recognize that the Berith is a family, the Haredi claim it for their parasitic religion. The verb Yasha'yah selected to denote his people's breach of the covenant was para, to break and nullify. It reveals that ethnic Israel has left the covenant, having frustrated and thwarted its intent. As a result, it has been suspended until recently. When Yahowah speaks of a curse, the cause is almost always religious, albeit sometimes political. And while the consequence is estrangement and death, this will be the single most damning episode in human history. As a result, al-Ken, it is, therefore, true that, eating away and consuming, akal, devouring and destroying, the land and earth, Eres, the region and world, is a curse which will necessitate recompense. Allah, are sworn oaths which persist, along with sanctions, swearing, and public stipulations which will invoke divine retribution and punishment. 452 Then, Wa, the liability and guilt, Asham, the libelous wrongdoing and horrendous suffering due to the offensive and injurious acts, associated with her inhabitants, Yashab Bahai, of those who have established a dwelling place and are settling within her, will result in, al-Ken, will cause, those continuing to live, Yashab, those who dwell and remain alive, Kal participle, upon the land and earth, Eres, the region and or the entire material realm, being scorched, being reduced in number and diminished in scale by being set aglow, Cherah, being burned, abridged, and dissipated, Kal perfect, and very few mortal men and women will remain, Wamizar in Aushah, so that only a very small remnant, a diminutive number, of human beings will be spared and remain, continuing to exist, Nephil perfect. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 24:6. It is not the answer that I had hoped for, but it is the one I have long anticipated. Very few Yahweh will be willing to cast aside their religion and politics for Yahweh. The reunion will be sweet but small, joyous but sparsely attended. I am expecting thousands among millions of Jews and 1 in a million among Gentiles. As I share these thoughts with you, I have grown to understand that this prophet, my father, and his son have all witnessed what is about to occur in our future. And while they are exceedingly disappointed in our past, they are joyous about what is to come. Yahweh was aware of this outcome the moment Adam disappointed him in Eden. He knew that this is where it would all lead. And yet, rather than give up on us and rejecting the entire experiment, Yahweh invested heavily in humankind as he sought to find and raise a family from the midst of the mess man was making. With Noach, there would be a fresh start. With Abraham, the germ of a family was formed. With Jacob, the family grew. With the Yatzer, Exodus from Miriam, the 453 crucibles of religious and political oppression, they were liberated, reintroduced, enlightened, and brought back home, although the journey did not go well. With rare exception, God's children were sniveling brats, an irritating collection of ingrates. And so, as he had with Noach, Yahweh sought a fresh start with Daud. He would become God's firstborn son, the exemplar of the covenant he so greatly desired. He was not perfect, but he was right, exceeding even Yahweh's expectations. God's proudest moment was when his beloved son explained why it was best from them to fulfill the Mikra together and reconcile this fractured relationship between God and his people. Even after providing 1,000 affirmations that they would serve us in this way, father and son knew that Jews and Gentiles alike would toss their gift into the sewer of religion, denying father, son, and family. Nonetheless, they did as they had promised and fulfilled Chag Matzah, making it possible for us to become part of the Berith Baith, covenant family. Then, when no one would listen or accept what they had achieved, they arranged for a guy to serve as a chota to call God's wayward children back home. They would invest heavily in him and support him, knowing that in the end, there would be a family reunion. And after enduring thousands of years when no one was interested, thousands among millions and billions would be a joyous result. I can empathize with my brother, Yasha'yah. God opened the door to heaven in his presence and there was no one standing there seeking admission. This great man blamed himself for the lack of a result, but it was not his fault, it was and remains theirs. Rather than answer Yahweh's invitations and accept his covenant's conditions, rabbis and their ilk will strive to misrepresent Yasha'yah, and discredit the one speaking for him. 454 Yasha'yah has seen the future and he knows that between Israel and Yahudah, in addition to some Goim, there will be some 7,000 ripe olives harvested from the tree. And growing from 0 to 7,000 in the last 30 years is grounds for celebration for the prophet, and for him, I am pleased. There is also the possibility that the reference to 7 ripe olives shaken from the tree speaks of Yahweh and Israelites gleaned during Towrah, leaving the possibility, the expectation, that there may be more awaiting Yahweh's arrival on Yom Kippurim. But no matter, there will be enough to please father and son. Each of the 12 references to the Torah in Yasha'yah, Isaiah demonstrate that Yahweh's teaching and guidance remains in effect to influence the last days. The next prophetic announcement drives this point home in no uncertain terms. God is calling Israelites, Israelis and Yahweh, Jews defiant and obstinate, stubborn and rebellious, children. His reason for stating this is that they are acting upon the counsel and advice of others rather than himself, and worse, they are engaged creating and then profiting from such schemes. The best examples of this would be the Babylonian Talmud, the Zohar, the New Testament, and the Quran. However, since Yahweh is referring to these self-indulgent and self-reliant individuals as obstinate children, the offenders are not Goim, and therefore not Christians or Muslims, placing this condemnation squarely on the thin, black-clad shoulders of the rabbis. 455 Speaking of them, Yahweh goes on to say that they are not only misguided, but when they pour out a spirited libation, there is no affinity with his spirit. In their toasts of L'Haim, to life, they are implying what they cannot deliver. The sins of the Hasidic remain because they have advanced rabbinical plans over Yahweh's provisions. In a sectarian setting, the rabbis will toast the person having performed a religious rite or mitzvah, Yasha coach, straightaway strength, or in today's vernacular, more power to you, as if the religion will empower them. And then, recognizing that they will need it, there is the famous Mazel Tov, good luck. At the religious prompting to light a pair of Shabbat candles, the one illuminating them will say, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'tzvotav tzivanu l'hadlik shel Shabbat. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who has sanctified us with commandments, and commanded us to light Shabbat candles. At issue here is that they are antagonizing God, not blessing him, especially by not recognizing that God's name is Yahowah and that Satan's title is Adonai. Yahowah chose his son, Daud, to be Melech of the heavens and earth, and he has given us instructions, not commandments. Further, he never asked anyone to light a candle, much less two of them, for the Shabbat. The commandment wasn't from God but, instead, rabbis, but it is telling that they are equating their words with the Almighty's testimony. It is at this point that Yahowah shares another bone of contention. Jews have often sought the protection of foreigners, of religious and political tyrants, and it has never worked out well. They went into the Black Land twice early on, as the covenant was being presented, and then later in pursuit of protection from a drought. With Abraham, it nearly cost him his wife, and with his great 456 grandchildren, the price was 4 generations of slavery. So, when Yahweh sought Pharaoh's protection against the rise of Babylon, God correctly predicted that it would cost them their sovereignty, something they would not regain for millennia. And more recently, 30 years after Israel was re-established, and after being attacked by Egypt, the young nation negotiated a peace with them. They have tried the same thing with Gaza, which was part of Egypt prior to the Six-Day War. This has also blown up in their faces. Yahowah's advice, which Yahweh failed to even consider, is to rely upon him for protection rather than hostile religious and political entities. Now for this in Yahowah's own words. Woe, Howie, this is a warning, defiant and stubborn children, Benim Sarah, obstinate and rebellious kids, prophetically declares, Naum, announces in advance of it occurring, Yahowah, Yahovah, who engage in and carry out, La'asah, to manufacture and profit from, counsel and advice, Eitzah, a plan whose consultation, is not from me, Walomin any, and it is not mine. And who pour out a libation as part of their covenant, Wanezak Maseka, who have chosen a drink offering for their appointed alliance and association, Kal infinitive, but not of my spirit, Walo Ruach any, so that they may attempt to remove and sweep away, Sefer, such that they might indiscriminately take off and scrape away, Kal infinitive, sin upon sin for having missed the way along with the guilt of being wrong, Chattath al Chattath, offenses, penalties, and punishments associated with misleading, leading astray, and wandering away, Yasha'yah, Isaiah 31, who have set out to go down, Ha-holak la Yared, who walked to descend, subjugating and diminishing themselves, to the religious and political oppressors, La Miraim, to the 457 despots and tyrants within the cauldrons of military and economic subjugation, to the authority figures in the place of coercive cruelty where slaves are confined and restricted by political persecution, considered foes, besieged and assaulted as if inside a concentration camp, without asking for my direction, wa pay any lo shall, without requesting my input or comment, to take refuge in the protection and shelter, la use bar maus, to seek safety and protection, Kal infinitive, of Pharaoh, Pharaoh, great house, the tyrannical enslaving dictator of Miraim, who was worshipped as a god, and to confide in and rely upon, Chaser, place one's trust in the safety and defense, a shadowy association with, Bartsel. The interposition of light and darkness, such that the light does not shine through, the crucibles of political and religious oppression, Miraim, the cauldrons of military, economic, conspiratorial, societal, and governmental persecution and subjugation, plural of Matzor, to be considered inferior and besieged, during a time of testing and tribulation, from to be bound and confined by an adversary and assaulted. Yasha'yah 30-2. Therefore, it will come to be, higher, to your shame, La atom bosht, to your humiliation, to seek the protection of Egypt's dictator, Maus Pharaoh, to rely upon the leader of Egypt for safety, and insult and ignominy, Kalima, confounding disgrace and dishonor, to confide in and rely upon, Kaziuth, place one's trust in the safety and defense of, a shadowy association with, Bartsel, the interposition of light and darkness, such that the light does not shine through. The crucibles of political and religious oppression, Miraim, the cauldrons of military, economic, conspiratorial, societal, and governmental persecution and subjugation, plural of Matzor, to be considered inferior and besieged, during a time of testing and tribulation, from to be bound 458 and confined by an adversary and assaulted. Yasha'yah, saves, Isaiah 33. Unless the cards have been scrambled and effaced, why would anyone playing with a full deck disregard Yahowah's advice and confide in a religious and political despot with a propensity to enslave and who thinks he is God, when the actual God has offered to help? There is a word for such idiocy, stupid. Everything stinks, churl bash, it all smells odious with the stench of shame, for the people, alam. It will accomplish nothing of value, lo yal, there is nothing to be gained, for them, la hem. It will be of no help, lo la ezer, it is of no assistance, nor of any benefit, while lo la yal, nothing can be gained. Instead, ky, it will be shameful, la bosh, it will be humiliating, and also, wagam, dishonorable, la chirpa, reprehensible. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 35. Okay, so it is worse than stupid. Yahweh's position is certainly clear enough. After all, the last time they tried this, he had to bail them out after 82 years of abusive slavery. Nevertheless, the brain trust misappropriating the fate of Israel decided to disregard their savior's appeal and to trust the tyrant. The religious and political tyrant, Wa Miraim, the oppressive military and conspiratorial dictator's troublesome harassment, is futile, not worth the wasted breath, Hebel, is pointless and meaningless, delusional and vain, completely devoid, an empty fantasy, of assistance, azar, of help. Therefore, la ken, I will call this their, kara la jothem, indulgent intermission, shibeth, time of ceasing and desisting, of Rahab, frenzied stupidity and pretentious idiocy, Rahab, baseless arrogance and 459 senseless affliction, manic and chaotic madness. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 37. At least God has a sense of humor. This moronic shibeth, indulgent intermission describes the 2,500-year time period away from the Torah and prophets, in which Israel's religious leaders have been engaged in Rahab, manic and chaotic madness. God has a serious side, too. Speaking to his prophet, Yahowah asks, so now, Otter, at this time, of your own volition, please come and include, choose to actually return to and pursue, kal imperative, that which is actually written, katab high, that which is permanently inscribed and engraved, kal imperative, from one keser, upon, al, the stone tablets, luvak, and in association with them, ethwar, in conjunction with, that which is inscribed, chakak high, engraved and portrayed, upon the written scroll, al-sefer, the documented body of literature and book, known as the Torah. Nabi, wa Mizmowr. I want this to exist, wa haya, I have chosen for this to actually and continually be this way, kal imperfect jussive, for, la, concerning and during, the last days, yam akaroun, the end and final period of time, as an eternally restoring witness and everlasting testimony, la ed, as a revelation of this evidence into perpetuity, forevermore, olam, throughout time. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 38. This serves as an affirmation that God is exceedingly critical of his people's approach to him then and now. It is yet another death blow to Judaism. Yahweh's condemnation of the religious and political approach of his people, and their lack of regard for his testimony, was intended to serve as a witness against them during the last days, and thus between now and Yahweh's return in 2033. More than a history lesson, this is prophecy, and as 460 such Yahweh's condemnation of his people, must be placed upon today's Jewish political and religious leaders. Therefore, as we move on to the next declaration, we find God defining rebellion as being unwilling to listen to his Torah. He says that those who are contentious and defiant with regard to his teaching and guidance are stubborn, deceitful, and mendacious. And in context, he is speaking to Jews today. So, if you are religious, you may want to reconsider. For indeed, they are a rebellious, embittered, and revolting people, and Mary Hugh, they are a contentious, defiant, and distressing, antagonistic nation, deluded and deceitful children, kakash benim, mendacious, unreliable, and obstinate kids who are frauds and fakes feigning obedience, lying and disappointing. They are children, benim, who are unwilling, lower bar, who are unyielding, disagreeable, and unaccepting, reluctant and adverse, kal perfect, to listen to, shama to hear, kal infinitive, Yahweh's Torah, Torah Yahowah, Yahweh's Torah instruction and teaching, Yahweh's source of guidance and directions, derived from Yas, signed, written, and enduring, Torah, way of treating people, Ta, giving us the means to explore, find, and choose, Yara, the source of instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction that flows from Yahowah, which Tob, provides answers to facilitate our restoration and return to that which is Tob, good, pleasing, beneficial, healing, and right, and that which causes us to be loved, become acceptable, and endure, Towrah and Tohorah, purifying and cleansing us, thereby providing us with the opportunity to change our attitude, thinking, and direction toward Yahowah. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 39. Given every opportunity and advantage, Jews have still managed to turn an express ticket to Shamaim, 461 heaven into a short trip to Sheol, hell. with Yahweh establishing his covenant with them, with God serving as their savior, with Yahweh revealing his Torah in their presence and in their language, with God establishing their nation and choosing them as his people, with Yah focusing all of his prophetic pronouncements upon them, and then returning to reconcile his relationship with them. What is the excuse for being embittered, deceitful, and unwilling to listen? This was written 2,700 years ago. The voice is Yahweh's. So why hasn't anyone in the leadership of Israel noted the problem? Why aren't there any Jews trying to correct this problem? Are Jews going to continue to be obstinate and take their antagonism toward Yahweh to their grave while feigning obedience in some kind of sick religious charade? Enough already. There are 1,000 reasons for Yahweh to despise Judaism, but let's address the big four. First, while studying their contentious Talmud, they pretend to be Torah observant. Second, they have chosen a delusional rabbinical religion over a beneficial covenant relationship with Almighty God. Third, they won't acknowledge Yahweh's name even if their lives depend upon it, and they do. And fourth, their religion has made them unlovable, unacceptable, miserable, and mendacious. Even God cannot stand to be around them. And so now you know why so few will be there to greet Yahweh upon his return. This is because they say, Asher Amah, to those who comprehend the revelation and to the visionaries who understand the message, La Ha-Roh, to the observant who are capable of seeing, of being discerning while explaining the prophecy, you should not be looking, Lo Ra, you ought not be seen observing or revealing this, Kal Imperfect Joseph. 462 And to those receiving the message from God who are in agreement with God, who are observant and intelligent, while Aha chose I'm, and also to those in contact with God and associated with him, who are approved and supported by God for being circumspect and perceptive, Kal participle, you have not received this from God nor has God selected you to reveal this to us, Lo Chazala Nakyu, you should not be looking at this or contemplating it on our behalf, Kal Imperfect Joseph. In such a straightforward and unequivocal manner, Nakoch, so boldly and bluntly, so honestly and forthrightly, so correctly and plainly in accord with God, sincerely justifying what is acceptable and right in opposition to us. You should choose to speak, Debar, you should communicate, electing to express yourself, Peel imperative, to us in a more flattering manner, La Nakyu Chalak, insinuating that you respect us, preferring delusions, Chaza Mahathala, predicting that which is untrue by favoring illusions, Kal imperative. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 30:10. This is why religious Jews would rather the messenger than listen to what they have learned from Yahweh. While I am not a prophet, I am observant and capable of comprehending Yasha'yah's testimony and then explaining it, especially with the support of the Ruach, Spirit. And relevant to this rabbinic retort, according to Yasha'yah, and thus Yahweh, I was chosen to speak out in this manner. If you do not like what we have to say, take it up with God. As we examine our lives, should we wish to be in the center of Yahweh's will, we should see parallels between ourselves and others God has used to his people's advantage. I speak most especially of the great Zerubbabel, Moses and Daud. While I was not nearly as courageous or noble, I have had my Moses moment. It was one that would 463 prepare me to endure and survive the criticism and cynicism that comes with this job, the very denunciations God just presented in the voice of the rabbis. Based upon a lifetime devoted to inventing a better way to do things, creating superior products along with an improved method of producing them, marketing them, educating people about them, distributing them, and offering them to the public, I conceive what would have been, should it still exist today, the most valuable company in the world, far better than Amazon is today, having done so 35 years ago. I had built it from nothing into a billion-dollar public company in 3 years, only to see it destroyed from within by people as disingenuous and self-serving as those God has just chided. Having done the right thing for the right reason, such that everyone associated with the new enterprise benefited, from manufacturer to consumer, I found a purloined picture of myself photoshopped on the cover of the nation's leading business magazine, making it appear as if I had consented to be their feature story on the crash of the market. Inside, 17 pages were devoted to villainizing me, making it seem as if I had actually destroyed the business I had built. There were 77 gross misrepresentations of the facts in the feature story, and the journalist didn't get a single meaningful aspect of his article right, but it did not matter. I had been publicly crucified for doing the right thing. Truthfully, it bothered me for a while. For the first time in my life, I experienced depression. But it did not endure. Those who had worked with me to build the business not only rallied around me, my first 2 employees suggested that we write a book and tell the story of the company's birth, growth, and demise the way it actually occurred. We did, and in the process, I learned how to write reasonably well, an uncommon skill today, and yet, one required for this job. Having survived the blistering public assault on my capability, character, and motives, I grew resilient to 464 criticism and even more determined that, no matter the issue, people should have access to the truth, because being right matters. I mentioned Moses because, after having kept a slave driver from killing a Hebrew man, the Israelites he had sought to serve and protect slandered him. It was a defining moment, a time when his character was forged. While he was initially reluctant to return as a result of what had occurred, he would trust Yahowah and become the greatest liberator and orator the world would ever know. Had he not been slandered, he would not have retreated from Miraim, nor been out shepherding sheep at the base of Mount Korib. After calling Israel's religious leaders, today's rabbis, obstinate, rebellious, defiant, and stubborn children who manufacture and profit from commentary that is not from God, Yahowah says that, unlike his Chota, stem, they are not associated with his Ruach, spirit. God further condemns today's rabbis by impugning their motivations, revealing that they have written their Talmud to indiscriminately sweep away sin upon sin for having been wrong and missing the way. God calls their behavior shameful such that it stinks to high heaven. He says that rabbinical commentary will accomplish nothing of value, be of no assistance whatsoever, and of no benefit. Indeed, the words of the rabbis are shameful and dishonorable, even reprehensible, worthless wasted breath. Then God calls these Jewish religious leaders delusional, vain, and counterproductive. He even coined a name for them at this time, saying their indulgent intermission is Rahab, frenzied stupidity and pretentious idiocy. To expose and condemn the rabbis, holding them accountable for the plague they have brought upon Jews, Yahowah asked Yasha'yah to write all of this down so that it would serve as a witness against them during the 465 last days. God wanted these rebellious and contentious, embittered and defiant, revolting people excoriated for having deceitfully deluded their fellow Israelites. According to Yahowah, they are mendacious frauds feigning obedience while lying to themselves. And all of it, the very core of their problem, was because the rabbis had replaced Yahowah's Torah, teaching with their disingenuous and revolting Talmud. They were listening to themselves and not to him. Then in the context of this rebuke, rather than admit that they were clueless and wrong about Yahowah, God reveals that Israel's misguided leadership will be hauntingly similar to those who slandered Moses. This is because they say, Asher Amar, to those who comprehend the revelation and to the visionaries who understand the message, La Ha Ro, you should not be observing or revealing this, Lo Ra. And to those receiving this message from God who are in agreement with God and supported by him, who are circumspect and intelligent, while our heart shows you have not received this from God nor has God selected you to reveal this to us, Lo Chaza La Naknu, in such a straightforward and unequivocal manner, so boldly and bluntly in opposition to us, Nakoch. Instead, you should choose to speak, to us in a more flattering way, insinuating that you respect us, La Naknu Chalak, preferring delusions, Chaza Mahathala. That wasn't actually the end of the rabbinic plea. Yahowah also predicted that they would say of those who understood what they had no interest in seeing, you should go away and then turn away from the way, so Minderek choose to turn around and head in a different direction, leave, depart, and reject the path, forsaking this journey, Kal imperative. 466 You should be inclined to conspire to bend and stretch out a perverted path, such that it is a thoroughfare, Nata Min Ora, you should choose to extend a swerving and wandering route, proposing a prolonged course of action and way of living one's life along a much more well-trodden, untraveled, thus popular, road, Hyphal imperative. It is in your interest to cease and desist, withdrawing from our presence, Shabath Min Pana Naknu, stop and be silenced around us, culminating what you are doing and then disappearing from us, putting an end to your observations regarding our presence and appearance, especially regarding, pertaining to, the set-apart one, Kadosh, the unique and uncommon, special and separated, dedicated and devoted, one, or in rabbinical parlance, the Holy One blessed be he, of Yisrael, Yisrael. Individuals who engage and endure with God or those who strive and struggle against the Almighty. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 30:11. It has been millennia since Yahowah communicated through or even directly to Israel. And now that it is happening again, now that Yahowah has turned to Gaum to convey his frustration with his people, those misleading Israel don't like it very much. They want him and the covenant family to go away and leave them to prey upon Jews as they see fit. Even better from the rabbinical perspective, they want their antagonist to reject Yahowah's way, to forsake this journey through the Torah, and head off in a different direction. As is the case with every overtly religious, political, and conspiratorial person I have encountered since Yahowah asked me to join him in calling his people home, they all crave the perceived credibility they would gain if they could convert their critic, causing him to join them 467 along their perverted path. Rather than toe the line, keeping on the straight and narrow, indeed unpopular, path Yahowah has articulated, they want everyone gallivanting down the well-trodden thoroughfare of religion. They would have us all join them in swerving from and extending the way such that they retain their positions as toll-takers and gatekeepers. There is even the veiled threat, telling Yahweh's witness that it is in your interest to cease and desist and to withdraw from our presence. Stop and be silenced, especially regarding the set-apart one of Israel. Methinks not. So, bring it on, boys. You are nothing more than liars and frauds. God has your number, and it has been discontinued. Consider yourself blocked. This now from Yahowah. As a result, therefore, Laken, regarding this, here and now, this is what, the set-apart one, Kadosh, the unique and uncommon, special and separated, dedicated and devoted, one, of Israel, of individuals who engage and endure with God or those who strive and struggle against the Almighty, says, Amar, professes and declares, because, Yan, for the temporal reason and since, you reject and despise, Marsatam, you all are disassociating from, spurning while loathing, festering while trying to dissolve and cause to vanish and disappear, this particular message and these specific words, Bahada Bahaze, this account and testimony, while instead relying, Wabatach, becoming vulnerable by taking the wrong approach and step, unsuspecting that you are naive and stumbling, insecure and undefended because of your belief, imperfect, upon extortion and control. The mistreatment of others for unjust gain, Bar-Oshik, in acting like tyrannical and troublesome dictators subjugating and oppressing, taking 468 unfair advantage by dealing disingenuously and cruelly defrauding, and you rejoice, Wagil, you are pleased with yourselves, gathering around in a circle to vigorously and enthusiastically celebrate, from one Kesa while the mount has lose, to be perversely wrong and devious, and depend upon it, Wasan el-Hu, lean toward it and rely upon it. Remaining committed to it to support yourselves, Yasha'yah 30:12, so likewise it shall be for you all, Laken Hayala Atom, the same way it will endure for you, imperfect. This depravity and perversity, Ha-A1 Haze, this failing and resulting guilt, this iniquity and its consequence, will result in the likes of a breach, peritz, a failure, fissure, and break, which is a weakness, bar, which is defective asking to be ransacked, about to collapse, nafel, ready to fall, in an elaborate defense mechanism, bar choma sagab, in a high and lofty wall, which will suddenly and unexpectedly, asher pitome, come to be fractured and fall, crashing down and crippling, bo sheba high, come to be broken and destroyed, causing everything to be shattered, in an instant, la petha, suddenly, in the blink of an eye, from one Kesa. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 30:13. This is now? You are here. It is the Laken, result of having antagonized Yahowah by having misled and abused his people for far too long. Because Israelites have come to prefer their political and religious leaders, their heritage and culture, even identifying with their long history of suffering over trusting Yahowah, they have brought this upon themselves. At the beginning of this chapter, I warned you that, if you are Jewish, you would not like what you were about to hear. And yet, rejecting this message, spurning it in hopes it will all go away, is not going to change anything. The malfeasance of rabbis is deeply entrenched. They have 469 been in control and in a position to extort Jews, gleefully taking unfair advantage of their brethren, for 20 centuries. But it is all about to come crashing down. What they have done will be done to them. Of that, there is no question. So only one remains, will you be standing beside them and buried along with them? Yahowah has called today's Jewish leaders, particularly rabbis, A1, depraved and perverse. And he compares this failure to a breach in an elaborate defense mechanism which is on the verge of collapse. He even warns you that their demise will come suddenly and unexpectedly, albeit not without warning. The grand edifice of Judaism is fractured and will soon fall, crumbling in the blink of an eye. Then God reveals that, as Judaism's defenses are shattered and collapse, there will not be a single artifact left unscathed, nothing to be found among the fragments of the religion, not even a shard to remove fire from a hearth or to scoop out so much as a drop of water from a cistern. It will be the complete and total annihilation of the religion and the religious. For thus says, Ky Koamar, regarding these events occurring in the here and now, declares, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our Eloah, God has directed in His Torah, teaching regarding His Hayeh, existence and our Shalom, restoration, from one Kesa as the Mount added Adonai, my Lord, the set-apart one, Kadosh, the unique and uncommon, special and separated, dedicated and devoted, one, or in rabbinical parlance, the Holy One, blessed be He, of Yisrael, of individuals who engage and endure with God. Had you changed your opinions and altered your beliefs to return, had you reconsidered and come back, withdrawing so as to be restored, you would have been freed. Finding 470 tranquility and compassion, Nakath, you would have enjoyed peace and contentment, and you would have chosen to be delivered from harm's way and saved, Yasha'yah, you would have been liberated and remained safe, evil imperfect paragogic none, in a most favorable and in a lot quieter circumstance, Bar Shakat, being safe, secure, and satisfied, undisturbed. And by trusting and relying, Wabar Bitcha, with a high level of confidence and assurance, you would have been strengthened and empowered, Higher Gabura Atom, you would have experienced the optimal outcome, Kalim Perfect. However, but, most of you were unwilling to consent, Lower Bar, you would not relent or concur and failed to voluntarily consent to accept the stipulations. Yasha'yah, saves, Isaiah 30:15. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, but did not. Yahowah did not ask much, only that Israel change its opinions regarding him and his Torah. Had they Shubar, been willing to alter their beliefs and return, had they reconsidered the religion that had cost them so much, they would have been restored to fellowship. The drone of the shrill voices of the rabbis would have subsided, muffled under their collapsed defenses, leaving the remaining Yahweh in a much quieter and more satisfying circumstance. Such is the prerequisite of the covenant. Upon withdrawing from the Babel, confusion of religion and politics, we can confidently trust and rely on Yahowah to strengthen and empower us. But alas, Yahowah needs our consent to save us. We must be willing to forego faith and embrace the conditions of the covenant. 1000, Elif Ekad, 1000, will be warned and proven wrong, Gara, shown to be 471 incorrect using words, reprimanded, admonished, criticized, chided, and corrected, at the appearance of one, Minpana Ekad, facing a single individual. When confronted by the presence, Minpana, of 5, Chamesh, of the 5th, who criticize, admonish, reprimand, and correct, Gara, who warn and rebuke, expose and chide, you will flee, news, you will depart and withdraw, escaping for your lives, Kalim Perfect, until, as a result of the witness, Adim, as a condition of the restoring testimony, you are part of a remnant which is spared, Yathar, you escape and survive, preserved as the remainder of what once was prominent, Nephil Perfect, like, Ka, compared to a beacon upon a solitary standard, Toran, a signal and banner atop of the mast of a flagpole, upon the summit of the mountain, Al-Rosh Ha-Ha, like the Nez, banner which is lifted up and displayed, Ka-Ha-Nez, sign representing the leader's means to communicate with his people, encouraging them to follow him. Serving as a prominent means of effective communication which when raised is readily seen by the intended audience, a signal displayed atop a standard by the Ruwak, upon the highest elevation, Al-Hajaibar, on top of the hill. Yasha'yah, saves, Isaiah 30:17. Prior to the Towrah harvest, there is an individual devoted to warning God's people, admonishing them, criticizing and correcting them. He will directly influence 1,000 who, in turn, will awaken more. There will ultimately be 5 voices correcting Yahweh. They include Moses sharing the Torah, Daud singing the Mizmowr, Yasha'yah professing these prophecies, and the 2 witnesses, of which Eliah is one. The other is the Chota, since it has been his responsibility to compose the Nez, banner which is being lifted up at this time. As a result of their collective witness, a remnant of Israel will be spared. And they will become the standard upon which the Nez is raised and displayed. 472. And therefore, while Aken, as a direct result of this and in return, assuredly, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher existence, is waiting, expecting and desiring this result, Chaka, is patiently adhering to the plan, longing its fulfillment, to approach you being merciful and compassionate, generous and caring, La Chanan Atom, to bestow favor upon you, from Chana, to diminish an aspect of himself to camp out and abide with you, growing with you. Further, and as a result, while Aken, he is lifting up on high, proud to raise you in love, Rum La Racham Atom, he has arisen to exalt and extol you mercifully, taking action to increase his affection and devotion to you, Kalim Perfect Peel Infinitive. Indeed, KY, Yahowah, is the God, Elohim, who inspires making informed and rational decisions about the means to appropriately resolve disputes, Mishpat, of exercising good judgment regarding the ultimate judgment. Blessed and happy, in a most favorable circumstance, are those who have walked along the path to receive the benefits of the relationship. Asheri, are the fortunate, from Asher, making progress along the straight and narrow path, whose journey through life is right and whose steps are guided in the correct way to give meaning to life. All who confidently wait, expecting him, Shurl Chakalahu, everyone who anticipates and desires his approach. Yasha'yah, saves, Isaiah 30:18. Yahowah is anticipating the day of reconciliations and his people's return. While I do not know the number, I realize that the fortunate few will find Yahowah thrilled to meet them. He is even proud to raise those who have 473 anticipated his return as his sons and daughters. This is a happy day for God and his family. For the people, now family, KYM, who live and remain, Yasha'yah, who settle down and endure, in Zion, Bar Zion, among the signs posted along the way, in Yerushalayim, Bar Yerushalayim, along with the guidance on reconciliation, you will weep no more, Baker lo Baker. Yahowah, from one Kesser versus he in the mount, will most assuredly be merciful and kind to you, Chanan Otter, he will be exceptionally generous and compassionate toward you, at the sound, La Cowl, of your announcement and call for assistance, Zark Otter, of your summons for help and proclamation, Kal infinitive. As soon as he hears it, Kar Shamahu, he will answer you, Anna Otter, he will respond to you. Yasha'yah saves, Isaiah 30:19. It's good to be a Zionist. After all, it is descriptive of the signs Yahweh has placed along the way that have led us home. A moment ago, I mentioned that Yahweh needs our permission to save us. And here, we find affirmation that, the moment we announce our intent to rely upon him, he will respond mercifully, and generously. Before we move on to the next Torah reference, if you are still clinging to the notion of God amending his testimony by way of subsequent religious texts, I'd encourage you to pause a moment and think. How utterly ridiculous would it be for God to create, publish, communicate, and enable the plan inscribed in the Torah, at great personal cost, and then to change it with the Talmud, New Testament, or Quran, only to return to the original plan for the rest of time? If you have a rational 474 answer to that question, one which is in complete accord with Yahweh's teaching, then, please, share it with me. At this point, my intent was to turn to the 42nd chapter of Yasha'yah because in the 4th verse we find the prophet speaking of inheriting his Torah. However, the pronouncement Yahweh is making begins much earlier, way back in the 40th chapter. So, let's begin there as Yasha'yah was shown the events which will precede Yahweh's return with his son and our Messiah, Daud. In these words, Yahweh is asking us to speak out and address his people so that they reconsider their political and religious beliefs. Choose to change your thinking and relent, and you will be comforted and consoled, Nachem, by electing to reconsider, altering your opinions regarding what is true of your own free will. You will find relief from your sorrows and distress and will be encouraged. Peel imperative, your choices will cause you to experience this result. My people, Ameni, my family, therefore speaking of Yahweh and Yisrael, promises your God, Amar Elohim Atom, declares your Almighty One. Yasha'yah 40:1. Speak, Debar, desire to communicate, Peel imperative, from the heart, exercising good judgment, Al-Laib, with the proper intent, motivation, and thoughtfulness, unto Yerushalayim, the source from which teaching and guidance regarding reconciliation flow. Make an announcement to her, summoning her by reciting to her, Kara El Hai, call out an invitation to her, proclaiming this by reading to her, that, indeed, KY, 475 surely and truly, her battles, Zaba High, her time of enduring the presence of armies and her military campaigns, will be finished and completed, male, fulfilled and satisfied and, thus, will have ended and be over. The consequence of her missing the way, A1, her propensity to be wrong by perverting and twisting the truth, will be pardoned through restitution, causing her to be accepted, regaining favor, Ratza, she will be reconciled because this will be resolved by making amends, compensation will have been paid for her, leading her toward being in agreement, the relationship restored at this moment, Nephil perfect, because she will have obtained, Lakek, she has grasped, Kal perfect, from the hand, Minyod, of Yahweh. Yahweh, the proper pronunciation of the name of Eloah, God has directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence and our Shalom, restoration, a double portion, Kefil, twice as much, for all of her, Bar Shirl, errant and mistaken ways, chatter, offensive and perverted propositions. Yasha'yah, Yahweh saves, Isaiah 42. Since none of these things occurred circa 30 CE, and most are still ongoing, the prophet is addressing God's family, Yahweh and Israel, at a future time when the people are no longer religious, and the nation's last battle has been fought and won. Israel has most assuredly not changed her collective mindset toward Yahweh, and the people have not been comforted. Her battles continue, with the worst occurring at the hands of Rome right after Daud's fulfillment of Chag Matzah in 33 CE. Even recently, she was forced to fight for her survival as Europeans engaged in ethnic cleansing, aka, genocide, during the last World War, a double portion, indeed. She fought for her independence in 1948, and then for her very existence in 1967, and 1973. Further, she has two enormous battles which remain, an all-Islamic war and a world war. 476 Therefore, we can conclude with absolute confidence based upon Yasha'yah 40:2 that Yasha'yah 40:3 was not fulfilled 2000 years ago. It, therefore, did not apply to Jesus. What follows was not written to predict a bath in the Jordan. I do not care if you call yourself a Christian, believe that your Bible is the inerrant word of God, or how much you may identify with Jews for Jesus, find affinity with the Messianics, or love the mythos associated with Yeshua. This does not apply even to the Christian misnomer. Get over it and get with the program. God is addressing a witness whose voice will announce his arrival in 2033 and, therefore, identifying someone today with this pronouncement. A voice, Kaul, calls out, inviting and summoning, Kara, reads and recites, calling out and welcoming, in the wilderness, Baha Midbar, in a desolate and lifeless world where the word is questioned, turn around and choose to change direction such that you are prepared for, Pana, alter your approach and perspective so that you are ready to face, Peel imperative, the way, Derek, the path, of Yahowah, an accurate transliteration of the name of Eloah, God guided by his Torah. Instructions regarding his higher existence and our Shalom, reconciliation. Of your own free will, choose to become straightforward and right, making a correct and on the level, Yazar, choose to be direct, reliable, and steadfast, standing upright without wandering, Peel imperative, raised highway, an elevated walkway and gateway, Masala, uplifting and upright conduit to show the way to ascent, from Silal, to lift up and esteem, respecting the ability to be elevated out of and above, through the dark and lifeless wilderness, Wabaha Arabah. Through the barren and desolate wasteland of unenlightened and unassociated Arabs, through the nocturnal swarms of 477 noxious pests, and within the gloomy fabric of commingling, even through Arabia where the Torah was revealed, the Wa is from one Kesser, to approach our God, La Elahai and Akyu, to move toward and draw near our Almighty One. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 43. Dowd opened the doorway to life, not the mythical character known as Jesus. And even within the mythology associated with him, Jesus did not speak of, construct, nor ask his disciples to build a highway to heaven. It was Moses and later Dowd who revealed how we prepare ourselves so that we are able to walk toward God, even through the darkest and most lifeless wilderness. When this occurs in the waning days preceding Yom Kippurim in year 6000 year, every depressed place, Shirl Gay, shall be raised, Nasa, will be elevated, and each, Wa Shirl, lofty place of illicit worship, Hawa Jaibar, shall be brought down, Shuffle, will be leveled. And it shall come to be, Wahaya, it will come to pass, that the insidiously deceitful and deceptive nature of that which is not on the level, Akob, that which is undulating, slippery, and misconstrued, and tends to cause people to teeter, fall away, and go astray, shall be clear-cut and flattened out, La Mishor, will be smooth, devoid of potholes, becoming upright and straightforward, the uneven terrain of obstructionist conspiracies which make the way impassable, Ha-reeks. The binding tethers of enticing collusions which impede progress, these harmful schemes, even the bumpy ground of intrigue, the snares and plots which hamper and obstruct the way, blocking the path, shall be burst open, by Ka, shall be ripped apart. Yasha'yah, Yahowah saves, Isaiah 44. No matter how one translates or interprets these words, this has not yet occurred. It could not, therefore, pertain to 478 the misnomer Jesus circa 33 CE. We should expect these miraculous events to transpire upon Yahowah's return in year 6000 year, 2033 CE, commensurate with the re-establishment of Dowd's kingdom. On Yom Kippurim, the Day of Reconciliations October 2, 2033, at sunset, guess who is coming to celebrate the Mikra? Then, Wah, the glorious presence, Karbowed, the manifestation of power, the splendor and status, the actual persona and honorable nature, the abundance, value, and rewarding gift, of Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of the name of Eloah, God has directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence and our Shalom, restoration, will be revealed, becoming openly known, Galah, will be exposed, disclosed, and recognized. And, Wah, the good news will be that every living creature, Shel Basar, all flesh will be gladdened, with every man either announcing or receiving the favorable report, will see him, Ra, will view, observe, inspect, and understand him, all together at the same time, Yador, in unity with Yeh, all in one accord, now more like Yeh, exactly at the same moment. This is true and reliable because, KY, the mouth, Pei, of Yahowah, has spoken it, Dabar, has said it. Yasha'yah, Yahowah saves, Isaiah 45. It's a simple question, why have so many Christians been led to believe that the prophecy foretold in Yasha'yah 40-3 pertained to the arrival of Jesus Christ when it undeniably and irrefutably declares that Yahowah's glorious presence shall be revealed and openly known? How is it that, When only a few thousand living in Yahweh saw the Messiah Daud at any one time, Christians have managed to ignore the fact that this prophecy is fulfilled only when every living creature will 479 see the glorious presence of Yahweh the world over at the same time. And since the Christian Gospels are otherwise, why should anyone believe them, especially their fabricated accounts of John the Baptist? If you are a Jew reading this and do not care what 2.5 billion Christians have been led to believe, I'd encourage you to reconsider. They have misappropriated your prophecies regarding your God, your people, and his return for you with his Son and Messiah. It is vital that you reclaim what they have stolen so that you are among the chosen people gathered in Yahushalem to celebrate his arrival. Along the way, if you don't already, you might even learn the name of the Son of God and your Messiah. A voice urges, Kal Amar, read and recite, choosing to call out and welcome, Kara, of your own free will issue an invitation and a summons, announce a proclamation, read aloud and designate by name and title, Kal imperative. So, I inquired, Wa ma eni, and then I, Yasha'yah, said, Kal perfect, eni is from one Kesser, what should I read and recite, Ma Kara, who should I invite to be called out, who should I welcome? The good news to every living being because an animal, Shurl Harbasar, every aspect of this message to every inhabitant of the earth because flesh, is an abode akin to grass, chaser, dwells like hay, dried and brown, needing water to live and grow, ultimately serving as food for other animals, and, Wa, their entire benefit, Shurl Kesedhu, their appearance and the totality of their usefulness, even all of their embarrassing and shameful behavior, is like, Ka, can be compared to, the flowery nature of an engraved plaque on a shining memorial, seats, an ornamental trophy which blossoms with a beautifully written inscription, or dedication memorializing some 480 achievement, of the field in the open and broad way, Sade, of the way which is spread out far and wide. Yasha'yah, 40-6. The abode likened to grass, chaser, withers, yabish, shrivels, dries up, and is gone. The flowery aspect of the engraved plaque on a shining memorial with its written inscription, seats, loses its vitality and fades because it is disdained as foolish, noble, wears out and decays, and is seen as stupid, senseless and contemptible, when the spirit, Ky Ruach, of Yahowah, blows away the forgettable and forgotten, Nashab Bahu, forcefully stirs among the unmemorable, driving them away such that they are no longer recalled. Insightfully and unexpectedly, Arkan, truthfully, and as a means to reveal causation, the people Ham, the families, followers, and nations, are an abode akin to grass, chaser, a dwelling like hay, needing water to live and grow. Yasha'yah 40-7. The abode of grass, chaser, withers and shrivels up, yabish, dries up and is gone. The flowery written inscriptions on memorial plaques at gravesites, seats, the engraved and shining ornamental trophies memorializing prior achievements, are disdained as foolish as they fade away, noble, loses its sheen and wears out, degrading and decaying because it is seen as stupid, senseless, and contemptible, but the word, Wadabar, of our God, Elohai Anakyu, stands, Qum, is established and confirmed, forever, La Olam, forevermore. Yasha'yah, Yahowah saves, Isaiah 48. It is essential to our well-being that we know where God is returning and to whom. We should also consider who he is bringing along with him and why. Upon the elevated and exalted mountain, Al-Har Gabba, toward the high and exalted mount, ascend, Allah 481, go and climb up. Zion, the signs posted along the way, Zion, the written directions posted on the path, proclaims the good news, Basar, brings the positive proclamation, publishing and announcing the glad tidings, Peel participle, a verbal adjective which explains the action whereby the subject, the signs posted on Zion, put the object, you and me, into action, for you to approach, La Otter. Powerfully and with authority, Vaha coach, mightily with all of your capability and newfound potential, in your vigor and robust nature, even with your restored qualifications as they pertain to your function and purpose, choose to raise your voice, Room Kal Otter, of your own volition lift up your vocalizations and verbal pronouncements, hyphal imperative, the object is engaged by the subject such that they are continuously similar in their actions and inclinations, as a basar. Bringing the good news as a herald, basar, proclaiming this positive and uplifting report, publishing and announcing the glad tidings, Peel participle, a verbal adjective which is demonstrative whereby the subject puts the object into action, to Yahushalem, source from which teaching and guidance, instruction and direction regarding reconciliation flow. Lift up on high, room, of your own volition raise up to an even higher elevation, exalting, even increasing the importance of, hyphal imperative, and choose to proclaim, Amar, of your own free will, announcing and saying, Kal imperative, fear not, no longer be intimidated, anxious, or apprehensive. Do not be frightened nor afraid. Kalim perfect Jussiv, cities the towns and populated places of Yahweh, Yahudah, the beloved of Yah, those who relate to Yah and are related to Yah. Behold, look up now and see, Hineh, pay attention at this moment and notice that here is, your God, Elohim. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates, Isaiah 49. 482 Yahowah's focus has always been upon Zion, Yerushalayim, Yahudah, and Yisrael right up to and including the moment of his return. There is no hint of, indeed no room for, a church in Rome, a cathedral in Washington, London, or Paris, nor a mosque in Mecca, actually Petra, but that's another story. God is returning to and for his people, Yahweh in Yerushalayim. Period. End of conversation. Behold, Hineh, pay attention and notice, right here and right now, Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate transliteration of the name of Eloah, God guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher existence and our Shalom, reconciliation, the upright one, down, the upright pillar of the tabernacle, will arrive, will come, returning, Kalim perfect, with a herald and a powerful ruler, Bar Chazak, with the loud blast of a trumpet from an empowered and passionate person who is mentally disciplined. Along with a capable leader with military prowess who is ready to fight, one who is intensely prepared and resolutely capable of encouraging, repairing, and defending, one who embodies the right character, appropriate status, and vocal strength to govern appropriately, who is also a courageous leader with a firm and strong hand who clearly knows how to guide in the proper direction. And then, his Towrah, capable arm and one sowing the seeds which take root and grow, Towrah, the prevailing and effective nature, the strength, resolve, and overall ability of his remarkably impactful guide among the flock, his ram who engages and fights to protect and direct his sheep, who with his strong arm is fruitful in his ways, accomplishing the mission, especially when sowing the seeds which advance the purpose of God and his sacrificial lamb, will vividly communicate, will explain the proverbs and parables while sharing the wisdom of the prophets, 483 speaking in memorable ways by making comparisons, drawing pictures with words, providing a narrative on the witness while also ridiculing that which deserves contempt while wisely exercising authority over individuals and governments using words, regarding approaching him, concerning him. Look up and pay attention, Hineh, behold the details and be observant, to him, the compensation for his loyalty, the just return and reward offered for his services and steadfast devotion, and, his work, past and present, his labor for what he is doing and has done, is right in front of him, is approaching him and facing him, in his very presence, appearing before him. Yasha'yah, Yahowah delivers, Isaiah 40:10. There are several ways to render Chazak in this prophetic declaration. Yahowah is arriving to Chazak, strengthen and he will Chazak, prevail. Yahowah's arrival will be Chazak, heralded by the blast of a trumpet in harmony with the purpose of Towrah. The one proclaiming his arrival will be Chazak, empowered, passionate, and mentally tough. But also, God's companion will be Chazak, a powerful ruler, a capable leader with military prowess who is ready to fight, one who is intensely prepared and resolutely capable of encouraging, repairing, and defending his people. Yahowah's associate will Chazak, embody the right character, hold the appropriate status, and project the vocal strength to govern appropriately. He will be Chazak, a courageous leader with a firm and strong hand who clearly knows how to guide in the proper direction. In favor of the herald, he will marshal, vividly communicate how to approach God. He will marshal, explain the proverbs and parables in addition to sharing the wisdom of the prophets. He will marshal, be speaking in memorable ways and be fond of making comparisons, 484 drawing pictures with words, and providing a narrative on God's testimony. He will also marshal, be ridiculing those who deserve contempt. In favor of the mighty man, Daud is marshal, is a king, a strong leader, a man who wisely exercises authority over individuals while governing using words. Daud exemplifies both aspects of marshal, from being the author of the marshal to being God's chosen leader. Towrah is also a title with several legitimate definitions, two of which could apply to this prophetic pronouncement. Towrah is either applicable to Daud as the protective shepherd and sacrificial lamb, or it speaks of someone who is announcing his return, making this Towrah capable arm serving to guide the flock by sowing the seeds which will take root and grow into God's family. This leads us to consider who it is that Yahowah is compensating for his loyalty, his steadfast devotion, and his service to God's people. What has he done which Yahowah sees as not only prominent but, also, clearly identified with him? In the context of vocally announcing the timing and place of Yahowah's return, while preparing an unreceptive people for this extraordinary event, it is hard to discount the message voiced throughout Yada Yahowah. After all, If the intent were to ascribe any of this to Dowd, why wasn't he mentioned? Since his name appears over 1,000 times, when God wants us to picture Dowd in a pronouncement, he tells us so. That is not to say that Dowd has to be delineated by name to be the subject of prophecy. Yahowah has afforded him the titles of Messiah, Son of God, King, Shepherd, Branch, Firstborn, Chosen One, and Prophet, in addition to Zarahua, while also telling us that he was preferred over all others, anointed, and enveloped in his spirit. Additionally, it is Dowd who will be returning as king at 485 this time, and Yahowah wants us to recognize and appreciate him. Such may be the case with this next sentence. Yahowah called Dowd to shepherd his flock, and Dowd called Yahowah my shepherd. God has strong and capable arms, and he selected 3 Zarahua, 2 profoundly important and the other as a herald, to serve his people. So, who is he in this next statement? We know that, after the announcement has been made by the designated voice, Yahowah will return with Dowd. So, it is time to get down to business. But are God and King gathering and shepherding the flock, or are they delegating this opportunity to another covenant member? Like Ka, a shepherd, Ra, he will tend, Ra, care for the needs of, leading, feeding, and protecting, Kal imperfect, actually, literally, genuinely, and continually, his flock, Edahu, those who need his assistance. He will gather, Kabats, he will collect and obtain, Peel imperfect, the lambs, Toleh, the young and vulnerable kids, the recent offspring of the adult lambs, in his strong and capable arms, shepherding, guiding, and protecting them, Zarahua, with all the resolve and overall ability he can muster as an important and impactful individual of action who, as a ram among sheep, is a leader and fighter, engaged within the flock as a shepherd protecting the sheep, fruitful in his ways, accomplishing the mission. Especially when sowing the seeds which advance the purpose of the arm of God and his sacrificial lamb. He will guide, leading, Nahal, he will direct, sustain, and nurture, caring for and helping, Peel imperfect, the consistent guidance will benefit the sheep, those who are being nursed, Ewell, the recently born and youngest sheep being suckled by their mothers, lifting them up, Nasa, raising and carrying them, honoring and respecting them 486 inches his lap, Check. Yasha'yah, Yahowah delivers, Isaiah 40:11. As we enter the 1,000-year celebration of Sukkah, camping out with God, there will be distinctions between individuals. Some number of thousands will be spiritual beings who have returned following the Towrah harvest. The stars of this day will be the acclaimed remnant of Israelites and Yahweh who were appropriately prepared for Yahowah's return. And while now included within the covenant family, they will retain both physical and spiritual qualities throughout the prolonged Sukkah Shabat. None of these people, however, will need to be led because they will all have come to benefit from Yahowah inscribing his Torah, guidance within them. The latter group, as physical beings, will conceive children, and they will need guidance, even as they are weaned by their mothers. They will have been born with free will, and therefore, they will need to hear the Torah recited to them to determine whether or not they want to accept it or reject it. And that is the job being assigned to this individual. However, while guiding infants is rewarding and enjoyable, it would not likely be the responsibility of Yahowah or Dowd, because if they were to intervene in this way, their very presence would make a mockery of free will. The prophet is, therefore, still speaking of the one announcing their return because he is already serving as a teacher. Under the auspices of full disclosure, while I do not yet fully appreciate the ramifications, at least for some and for a while, there may be 2 additional classes of people. Those who demonstrated no animosity toward Yahowah or Yahweh may be allowed to enter the millennial Shabbat. Also, there will be recompense for the worst of the offenders, with those who abused Jews forced to serve them in the most menial of capacities, and thus enduring what they perpetrated. 487 Lastly, I'd like to impugn a lingering myth about living with Yahowah. We will not be lounging around getting fat eating bonbons. God values work, and so we will be given the opportunity to serve alongside him as we care for one another and the universe. This all brings us right back to seeking to identify this Zarahua, since this is the second mention of him in the past 2 statements. It is possible that it is applicable to Dowd serving as the protective shepherd even though he will not be the sacrificial lamb at this time. Been there and done that. So, it could also speak of the individual who is announcing his return, making this Zarahua capable arm serving to guide the flock by sowing the seeds God has provided and cultivating them. If so, Yasha'yah's Chota is serving as this Zarahua. It is also possible that Yasha'yah is projecting anthropomorphic attributes on God, even though in this circumstance, with him returning with his light undiminished, it seems a bit out of character. We have every reason to conclude that Yahowah will not change his approach upon his return. He has consistently chosen to work with and through those he has selected and equipped to achieve what he wants accomplished. Therefore, this Towrah is most likely the covenant member whose voice served to announce what we are witnessing in these words. According to the prophets, there will be 3 Towrah, and each will serve his purpose. Moses liberated the Israelites, leading them away from religious and political oppression and to the promised land. He was also the voice of the Torah and a conduit for God's greatest gift. Daud was the ultimate shepherd, nurturing and protecting Yahweh's sheep, bringing them together and guiding them within their home. Then in his second of 3 lives, he served as the Passover lamb, opening heaven's 488 door. And as we now know, Yasha'yah spoke of a third and final Towrah who would call God's people home. With all of the acclaim directed at the Torah, with his soaring prophecies regarding Daud, and his compelling portrayal of the Passover lamb, Yasha'yah is cognizant of the realization that there have been 2 great Towrah whose role in the lives of God's people has been essential, absolutely irreplaceable. And yet, because his focus is on Yahweh's return and the role his prophetic announcements play in shaping what we will soon witness, the final, albeit less significant, Towrah, is of great fascination to this prophet because of the role he plays in proclaiming his words at this time. Based upon its use in the Torah, Shemoth, Exodus 6:6, 15:16, Bamidbar, Numbers 6:19 and Dabarim, Deuteronomy 4:34, even Mizmowr, Psalm 77:15 and Yasha'yah, Isaiah 33:2, Towrah is used to symbolically present the sacrificial lamb's ability to shoulder our burdens in association with Passover, but not always. Towrah is based upon zerah, to sow seeds and, thus, denotes the ideas of being productive and fruitful in sowing the seeds which take root and grow, conceiving offspring. Most Hebrew dictionaries define Towrah as arm, but that usage is quite rare, occurring in just over a dozen of some 90 references. But to be fair, the arm and shoulder, like the hand, in Hebrew are almost always presented symbolically, conveying an individual's influence and capability, their power and strength, their ability to be productive, to get things done, and to prevail. From that perspective, the introduction to what is among the most acclaimed prophecies speaks of someone to whom Yahweh has made this realization known. It acknowledges the existence of an individual who has 489 uniquely ascertained and conveyed the identity of these Towrah. Especially relevant, the sole reason that this man is mentioned at this moment is that by seeking to establish the point of the prophetic portrayal Yahweh was conveying through Yasha'yah, his analysis and insights were so uncommon, his identity became relevant. Who, has come to establish, verify, and prove, a man, has reliably, confidently, and dependably demonstrated as true, highful perfect, the point of our message from far away, La Shamuel Naknu, reporting the information and news from Yasha'yah and Yahweh, while in a different geographical area, and then announcing it to others. And, to whom, Almai, have the Towrah, protective shepherd, sacrificial lamb, and the one productively sowing the seeds which will take root and grow as the arm, Towrah, of Yahweh, been revealed and made known, Galah, been openly exposed through evidence and reason. Yasha'yah, Isaiah 53:1. In this context, every positive attribute we have considered fits Yahweh's 3 Towrah, Moses, Daud, and the last witness, the voice calling God's people home. They were each uniquely important while serving as the hand of God. They were empowered, capable, and protective on God's behalf, consistently prevailing when fighting to defend his flock. This time, Towrah is used to identify a unique individual. Based upon what follows in Yasha'yah 53, he is the one who would reveal the identity of the Passover lamb while explaining the benefit of Daud fulfilling Chag Matzah. And that person, my friends, is found on a very short list. Reinforcing his identity, Shalomah, Solomon, Daud's son, also reinforced this connection between this latter-day witness and his recognition that Daud served as 490 the primary Towrah, protective shepherd and sacrificial lamb. During the dedication of Yahweh's family home, the preeminent event in the life of a united Israel, while standing atop Moriah with Jacob's descendants gathered before him, Shalomah transitioned from addressing the promises Yahweh had made to his father, David, to the Nakri, a discerning foreigner from a distant place and time speaking a different language, who, as a result of being observant, would come to understand. He advised future generations of the children of Israel how they should respond to the words this person would write on their behalf. Therefore, in addition, Wagam, regarding the Nakri, observant and discerning foreigner from a different ethnicity and geographic location, who will come to understand, Ha-Nakri, someone from a different place and culture, speaking a different language, who, having paid attention, will comprehend, from Naka, to become acquainted, recognize, and acknowledge something which deserves the highest regard and respect by being attentive and astute, who, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, is not of your people, Lo Minamota, this Yisrael, Hu. He will come, Wabo, from a faraway country in a distant time, Min Eres Rechauk, for the express purpose of being a witness and providing answers regarding, Laman, your, otter, surprisingly important, Ha Gadol, name, Shem, the influence of your Yod, influential hand, Yod otter, along with the Chazak, powerful and passionate leader, Ha Chazak, and, Wah, the Zarawah, protective shepherd and sacrificial lamb, Zarawah Hu, whom you have extended, otter Ha Nata. When he arrives on the scene and chooses to pursue this, Wah Bo, then, Wah, he will help interested parties reconcile their relationship by providing those who 491 exercise good judgment with the information and justifications needed to make a correct and reasoned decision, Halal, regarding this familial relationship, El Ha-Beth Ha-Zeh. Dabarem Ha-Yaumim 632. When you hear it out of the heavens, coming from the atmosphere, listen to what comes out of the spiritual realm by way of the sky, Wa'atashama min ha-shamaim, within the location where you live, min Makaun Yashab, then engage and act accordingly, choosing of your own accord to do everything, Wa'asakar Shurl, which, to show the way, Asher, the Nakri, observant foreigner from a different ethnicity and geographic location who understands, this man from another place and culture, speaking a language other than Hebrew, who is uniquely discerning, Ha-Nakri, has invited you to read, Kara El Otter, for the express purpose of being a witness, who provides answers such that, Laman, all peoples of the earth, Shurl and Ha-Eres, will have a genuine and ongoing opportunity to become familiar with Yada, to know, acknowledge, accept, and understand, Yada, your name, Eth Shem Otter. Coming to respect and revere you, Wala Yer Eth Otter, simultaneously along with, Ka, your people, Amotter, Yisrael, Yisrael, and also, so that, Wala, they may know, Yada, that, truthfully, KY, your family and this house, Al-Ha-Beth Ha-Zeh, which to reveal the correct path to walk to give life, meaning that, Asher, I have built for the family, Banar, are designated and called, Kara, by your name, Shemotter. Dabarem Ha-Yaumim, words of the days, 2 Chronicles 6:33. This is something God clearly wants his people to know and accept. And indeed, it is long past time that the 492 world, especially Israel, listens to what Yahowah has to say. Recognizing that we are pursuing these prophecies to better understand Yahowah's relationship with his people today and tomorrow, and then to more accurately assess what Yasha'yah, Isaiah scribed in the opening of what is now called the 42nd chapter, I would like to walk you through some of what is recorded in the 41st chapter, so that you are aware, the entirety of the intervening statements, from Yasha'yah 40:12 through 41:7, focus on Yahowah's role as creator, author, instructor, and Almighty God. The prophet is reintroducing Yahowah to the people who have forgotten him, and, worse, to those who are more interested in listening to their rabbis instead of God. And while it is beautifully written and compelling, our current mission is to remain focused on who you are, and why you are still influenced by the Jewish religion and culture when you could be here engaged and enduring with God. You are Yisrael, individuals who engage and endure with God, Wa'ata Yisrael, or you are among those who wrestle and struggle against the Almighty, my co-worker, Ebed Eni, Yaakov. Reward or consequence, Yaakov, my stance, I grab the heel, Jacob, from Akab, to receive a benefit or suffer a penalty for circumventing and overreaching, digging in by being stubborn or embedding one's heels to be steadfast, whom, to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, I chose and tested, Basher. I wanted and preferred, I desired and selected, and I examined and 493 assessed, as the seed, Zerah, was the offspring sown and cultivated in order to grow and be productive, of Abraham, merciful father and father of the uproarious multitudes, my love, Ahab Eni, my close and affectionate companion and friend. Yasha'yah, 41:8. You are Yisrael. Yahowah is encouraging you to act like it. As a result of the relationship, Asher, I will restore and enable you, re-establishing and empowering you, Chazak Otter, I will repair and strengthen you individually and, thus, addressing Yisrael, enabling you to recover and prevail, Haifel perfect, facilitating your restoration and empowerment at that moment in time, from the far extremities of the earth, Min Katsa Ha-Eres, from the ends of the earth and the outskirts of the land, from the most distant parts of the planet and away from its most powerful people, Atzal High, away from the most acclaimed and eminent world leaders. I will call out to you at that time, reading and reciting an invitation to meet and welcome you individually, Kara Otter, I will proclaim a summons for you, singular, meaning, Yisrael, at that moment, Kal perfect, and say to you, Wa Mala Otter, you are my co-worker, Ebed Eni Otter, you and I will be working together. I have chosen and evaluated you, Basher Otter, I prefer you, have selected you, and have examined and tested you at this time, Kal perfect, and I will no longer reject you or spurn you, Walo Mas Otter, I will not limit my association with you because I am no longer averse to you, Kal perfect. Yasha'yah 41:9. you have received an engraved invitation from God. Are you going to answer it? Fear not, Yasha'yah, for I am with you, YYV3C10, because I am beside you and accompanying you, still singular and addressing Israel. Do not be 494 discouraged or dismayed, Al-Shatha, do not be anxious or apprehensive, nor look away, for I am your God, Kyne Elohim Utter. I will empower you so that you grow strong, established, determined, and courageous, Amitzota. I will strengthen you and support you such that you become adventurous and fearless, fortified and mature, alert and secure. In addition, I will assist and help you, Azar Otter, I will come to your aid, so that I can accept and uphold you, Tamakota, I will grasp hold of you, support you, sustain you, and be faithful to you, with my vindicating right hand, Bar Yamin Sedekeni, with my rightful influence and correct approach. Yasha'yah 41:10. The Creator of the universe, the author of life, is offering to help you because he wants to accept and uphold you. That should make you feel special, welcome, and desired. But is it enough to motivate you to grasp hold of his hand? Considering what comes next, somebody may want to warn the progressives, conspiratorialists, and jihadists before they go full retard. Here and now, look and behold, at the present time, from one Kesser, I will humiliate, Vosh, I will shame, bringing emotional distress and physical pain, and insult to the point of despair, Wakalam, and I will dishonor and deprive, confounding and shaming, all of those who have been contentious with you, in competition with you, or jealous of you, Shurl Hachera Bar Otter, everyone who is aroused against you, angry with you, even displeased with you, incensed and fretting over you, Nephil participle, the progressives. Conspiratorialists, and jihadists who have acted demonstrably in this way will be treated this way. 495 They will have consistently chosen their enduring fate, higher, they will become, Kal imperfect Joseph, which is to be negated, ceasing to exist, Ka'in, which is to be for naught, becoming a non-entity, as if nothing. Each individual, each person, who was antagonistic toward you, quarreled or fought against you, or was opposed to you, Ribotter, who disputed you, who was hostile toward you, insulted you, or had a grievance against you, will be exterminated, Abad, will be annihilated and then expelled, die and be damned, their lives squandered, having no value, and their whereabouts no longer known, Kal imperfect, from one Kesser. Yasha'yah 41:11. And should you inquire about them, Bekoshem, should you seek to hold them responsible and to account, Peel imperfect, you will not find them, while Lo Matzahem, you will not encounter them or happen upon them. One Kesser omits this statement by repeating the beginning of the previous statement followed by the conclusion of the next sentence, which was likely a scribal error. Those people, Ish, who have bickered and squabbled against you, Matsu Thotter, who have tried to destroy you, especially those who battle against you, Ish Milcham or Otter, including individuals who deploy weapons against you in military and militant fighting, will be gone, ceasing to exist, having chosen an eternal state of nothingness, Higher Ka'in, will be for naught as they are negated forevermore, Kal imperfect Joseph, having actually chosen to always exist as a non-entity. Yasha'yah 41:12. This is unlike any other time. Those who are opposed to God's people and place will be shamed for their derogatory attitude and then removed from the land and wiped off the face of the earth. Only then will Israel live in peace. 496 This is because, indeed, I am, Yahowah, Yahowah, your God, Elohim Otter, who is restoring, empowering, and re-establishing you, Chazak Yamin Otter. And it is I who say to you, Ha'alath, you should not be intimidated or frightened, Al-Yer, you should not be anxious or afraid, Kal imperfect Joseph, I, myself, will be assisting you, Azar Otter, I will be helping you, increasing every aspect of your nature, strengthening you, Kal perfect. Yasha'yah 41:13. Do not be distressed or anxious, Al-Yer, you should not be awestruck or intimidated, neither worried nor fearful, Kal imperfect Joseph, worm, Tolar, otherwise insignificant crimson grub or one adorned in scarlet, from Yalla, to have spoken wildly and rashly, of Jacob, of my footsteps, father of the nation, commonly transliterated Jacob, a synonym for Israel, from I and Akab, to receive the reward and suffer the consequences of circumventing or overreaching, digging in one's heels. And to the extent, Wamath, the adults who are left, particularly the men, one Kesser you are Yisrael, individuals who have engaged and are now enduring with God, Yisrael, those who struggled and strove against God who are now freed and empowered by the Almighty, I will help you, Azar Otter, I will assist and support you, one Kesser, you is masculine, declares, in advance of it occurring, Naum, prophetically announces, Yahowah, Yahowah, your Redeemer, Wagal Otter, the one who buys you back, redeeming and ransoming you, delivering you, Kal participle, one Kesser, again you is masculine, addressing Yisrael, the set-apart one, Kadosh of Yisrael, Yisrael. Yasha'yah 41:14. If you act like Yisrael, Yahowah will be your redeemer, not the rabbis, Judaism, the Talmud, or even the 497 IDF. And as a result, he will deploy you to transform the world, ridding it of negative influences. Behold, Hineh, pay especially close attention to what is occurring here and now. I will cause you to be, Simota, I will appoint you as, from one Kesa where you is again masculine as opposed to the mount where it is feminine, like a restored and re-established, Lachadash, a reinstated and reaffirming, highly valued and precise Karuz, a finely crafted and sharp, threshing sledge, morag, device used to dislodge useful grain from the husk and stalks, double-edged to cut down, fifth, with teeth to devour. The lords and the rulers who were controlling, Baal, the landowners and possessive citizenry, you will thresh and trample, douche, you will tread upon and tear apart, the elevated places, the most prominent places, and grind them into powder, pulverizing them, wadakak, you will use this implement to break them up and crush them. Then, you will cause, Sim, the high places of worship, Jibar, the summits of illicit activity, to be like chaff, Kahamo, useless husks blown away. Yasha'yah 41:15. You will winnow them, Zarahem, you will scatter them, and the Spirit, like the wind, Waruwak, like the wind, shall carry them away. Nasahem, as that which is associated with them is dispersed, Pulzethem, are thrown into oblivion, by the force of the gale, Sar, the raging storm. And you will celebrate, shouting joyously, Jill, you will be delighted with the fortuitous upgrading of circumstances, with Yahowah, Bar Yehovah. Then, you will shine brilliantly, Wahalal, you will be clearly visible as light. Conjunction united these thoughts if from one Kesa, along with the set-apart one of Yisrael, Bar Kadosh Yisrael. Yasha'yah 41:16. 498. This story has a happy ending and a bright new beginning. Will you add your name to the credits and be part of writing it? The oppressed and afflicted, any, those deprived of property and possessions who have been exploited and extorted, without political or religious status, the disenfranchised and powerless within the society, those seeking freedom from oppression and abuse, from Abar, the willing and accepting, from one Kesa, who seek water, Bakoshmaim, when it is scarce and they are parched, and Lashonhem Bar Hasama Nashath, Yahowah, any Yehovah, will respond to them, Anahem. The God of Yisrael, Elohim Yisrael, will not forsake them, Lo Azabhem, will not abandon them. Yasha'yah 41:17. Water is being used as both a metaphor for cleansing us of religious scum and as the means to sustain our lives. It is also used literally because a foreboding drought will come upon the land. So, there will be water, water everywhere. And where there is water, the desert will bloom in preparation for our return to Eden. I will open, Patak, rivers Nashar, streams of flowing water, on the barren plains, Al-Shafi, and in the middle of the valleys, Wabar Talk Baikar, springs Mayan. I will place, Sim, lakes of water, Lag Maim, in the desert, Midbar. Then, the parched land suffering from drought, Wa Erezia, will have sources of water coming forth, La Motza Maim, from one Kesa where the source is masculine. Yasha'yah 41:18. I will bestow, Nathan, in the desert, Baha Midbar, the cedar, Erez, the acacia, Shitta, the myrtle, Haddas, 499 and the olive tree, Wa Etz Sheman. I will place, Sim, in the arid plateaus, Arabar, the cypress, Baush, the ash, Titar, and the pine, Tarsar, at the same time, Yador. Yasha'yah 41:19. As a result, Laman, they will see, Ra, perceive, and know, Yada, realize, examine, Wasim, and understand, Sakel, gain the insight, by making the connection between these things, Yador, that, Ky, the hand, Yod, the influence and actions of Yahowah, Yehovah, did this, Asajoth, acted to make this occur, the set-apart one of Yisrael, Kadosh Yisrael, conceived and created it, Barahai. Yasha'yah 41:20. The intent is to reveal that, once all of the political, religious, military, and societal pollution is removed from the earth, it will be returned to the conditions experienced by Adam, Shor, and Yahowah in the Gan Eden, Garden of Great Joy. We are returning to where our relationship began. But not everyone will be on the same page and see it the same way. Rabbis have a nasty habit of claiming the things of God for themselves. So let the naysayers protest, claiming that their arguments and laws supersede God's testimony. If nothing else, it will be entertaining. While the following dialogue is in Yahowah's voice, there are overtones of the wit and grit of Elyeh in these words. Discrediting Israel's religious and political establishment in a sarcastic manner is familiar territory for the most provocative of Yahweh's spokesmen. Bring forward and present, Carib, approach and offer, your argument, Ribatum, your contention and dispute, your accusation and grievance, says Yahowah, Amar Yahowah. 500 Gather together and bring forth, Negash, your positions and supporting rationale, Atsumoth Atom, the evidence buttressing your disputes, asks Amar, the one who counseled and advised, Malak, the one who led, Yaakov, the father of the 12 tribes who became Israel. Yasha'yah 41:21. Let them choose to come together, compile everything they know, present what they have, Negash, they can give us their best shot and elect to advance their case, imperfect Jussiv, and inform us, reporting a reasonable explanation to us, wa nagad la naknu, of what is going to occur during the upcoming meetings and when they will transpire, eth ashakara, when, where, how, and why everything will happen, imperfect Jussiv. Can they speak intelligently about the most important things or report on what happened in the beginning, how Rishon Mahena Nagad, so that we can examine and consider it, Wasim Laban Aknu, when placed before us we can choose to consistently incorporate them into our thinking, cohortative imperfect, and so that we can know, should we choose to become aware, what will occur in the future, and then be able to recognize what will transpire during the last days, wa Yada Yahowah, and understand the fate and reward of the remnant in the end, cohortative imperfect, from one Kesser where this is one sentence. Perchance, might we hear, our Shama Naknu, of the things to come, Habo, of what will occur. Yasha'yah 41:22. This is put up or shut up. And since there is no validity to much of anything the rabbis have argued, and since not a single one of the legions of them was a prophet, or has spoken for Yahowah, ever, they are going to perform as well as the 850 advocates of Baal, the Lord and Asherah 501 vertical bar the Queen of Heaven did before Eliah. In fact, after having read this divine taunt, I know where Eliah got his material. And of course, we know the consequence of pretending to speak for God. All of them were killed, as will be the case with every rabbi. Mind you, I'm not threatening or encouraging violence. As always, when confronting evil, we must use words, not weapons. I'm simply reporting what Yahowah is going to do following this encounter. It does not take a prophet to predict the inevitable. The interesting thing about God's taunt is that, if the rabbis had done what we are doing, they would know the answers. They could explain what has and will occur, accurately presenting every important step along the way. They would know when, where, how, and why Daud fulfilled the initial four Mikrai, and even when, where, why, and with whom Yahowah will honor his commitment to fulfill the final two. They would even know their fate. Heck, all they would have to do is read these books with a desire to learn rather than argue and they would be right for a change. Yahowah has revealed the answers to every question he has asked through his prophets. And yet, since Yahowah realizes that they value their words above those he inspired, God is aware that their arrogance will compel them to make fools of themselves. Reprising what occurred with Eliah, and likely in his presence, the rabbis will be offered yet another intermission to see if they can find their God, the Adonai Hashem, the Holy One blessed be He, in the latrine. Or perhaps, he is taking a nap, snoozing along with them. The more we read into this, the more I see Yahowah using Eliah as one of the final two witnesses to taunt and torment the rabbis who are on the cusp of being eradicated. These are the questions I would ask them because I know 502 the answers and realize that they do not. They will scour their Talmud for clues from the rabbis they have venerated above God, but it will be for naught. Report and explain, Nagad, reveal, providing an informed and rational response to, hyphal imperative, what is to come and who will return, ha-otter, what will happen and who is coming back, cal participle, in the end and even whom from our brethren will arrive, la akor, hereafter as a relative and kin, so that we may come to realize, wa yada, we can come to know and understand, cal cohortative imperfect, that, surely, ky, that hypothetically, your gods, Elohim Atom, your mighty ones, those who rule over you by claiming to represent God, are also right and good, even better, Afyathop, are up to the task and can perform as well. Or perhaps, wah, you are wrong, incorrect, uninformed, irrational, immoral, and of no use, ra, you are rotten and worthless, misleading frauds, hyphal imperfect second person plural, you are consistently responsible for this invalidating outcome, and, free of your influence, we should choose to be disappointed and disgusted, especially considering the consequence, wa shatha, independent of religious, political, and social influence, and then on our own initiative, we should be dissatisfied and disheartened. repulsed and offended, even alarmed by what this implies, hit pale imperfect cohortative. Now that we have heard all of this and can see for ourselves, Yada Yahowah, because it is all being revealed to us, enabling us to perceive what has been occurring, Kal imperfect, from one Kesser whereas the mount has them staring at one another. Yasha'yah 41:23. The remnant of Israel will see and hear again. The words of God will resonate in the souls, hearts, and minds. It will be a time of reawakening and return, of liberation and enlightenment, of truth for a change. 503 The rabbis will be outed. Their lies will be hanging out like dirty laundry for everyone to see, kippahs, talits, tefillin, kittils, and regal flapping in the breeze. The filthy game of Judaism will finally be exposed. Rabbis will be seen as frauds. And that is the final answer to the Jewish question. So only this remains: will you accept it before it is too late? Will you go down with the Talmud? Behold, here and now, hen, surely, you are all worthless, atom minayin, you, plural, are without value, nothing and for naught. And your work, your laborious rituals, and your achievements, wa poal atom, your actions and efforts, your great accumulation of accomplishments, what you have ordained and done, from one Kesser, are fleeting and empty breath, minefer, for naught, hot air, even venomous and serpentine. The one choosing to be with you, Basha bar atom, he or she who prefers you and accepts you, Kal imperfect, is also an abomination, detestable and repulsive. Towrah bar, the religious individual is also foul and disgusting, unethical and abhorrent, offensive and unclean. Yasha'yah 41:24. Now you know what Yahowah thinks of the rabbis and of the religious. And since he is a huge proponent of Yahweh, it should be obvious that, unlike the Haredim, he does not equate being Jewish with Judaism. Should you be of the mistaken belief that the object of Yahowah's sarcastic scorn is other than today's rabbis, all of whom failed God's test, then you will be counted among the repulsive and abhorrent. When it comes to pretending to speak for God, and then changing his name and message, the Almighty is not accommodating. If you are wearing curlicues, excuse me, payas, although some claim, especially in Yiddish, the mother 504 tongue of the Haredim, that the plural of the pio is pays and not pieth, and Lord knows, I do not want to unnecessarily offend the offensive. I'd suggest a razor along with a match for your morning suit and the rest of the religious garb. God sees it as I do, repulsive, and that's not good when the intent is to form a relationship. God has a remedy. And as always, he will work with someone who is committed to sharing his words. But this time will be different because Yahowah could not find a Yahwud, Jew who was willing to listen to him and then speak for him. I called into action, Yahweh, I have aroused to accomplish and I have motivated, awakened and raised up, making obvious by exposing and pressing into public engagement, Heifel perfect, someone from the north who is a hidden treasure, Min Zarfaun, someone highly valued awaiting discovery, and he has come forth for you, Wa Otter, he has arrived upon the scene for your benefit. From the rising of the sun, Min Mizrach Shemesh, from sunrise, getting up at the first appearance of light, early in the morning, brilliant in the light of day, he will consistently and literally call out, issuing an invitation, Kara, he will read aloud, reciting the summons while proclaiming a welcome to the meeting, Kal imperfect, in my name, Vashem Eni, using my personal and proper designation. Then, he will pursue, Wabo, he will go against and come upon, the government and religious officials, Segan, the sectarian and secular leaders as well as the military rulers, the heads of state and prominent institutions, as if they were malleable and fermenting mud, Kamo Choma, simultaneously as if they were pliable and troublesome muck and foaming mire, and as, Wakamo, a potter formulates, frames and 505 conceptualizes, Yowza, an assault, Ramas, aggressively pressing in upon and destroying, trampling and crushing, on mucky clay, tyt, slimy dirt, muck, and mire which needs to be dug out and swept away. Yasha'yah 41:25, since one Kesser differs in the use of pronouns, I followed the context of what came before and after this prophetic statement. Yahowah found his witness north of Israel, called him to action, and brought him forth on behalf of his people. God's messenger, like his son, Daud, would be an early riser, someone who does his best work at dawn. And he would be enthralled with sharing the full import of Kara so that all who would answer the invitation would know and love, read and recite, and then welcome and proclaim Yahowah's name. Announcing God's invitation to his people would be half of his mission, the other, silencing those who oppose it. Yahowah's hidden treasure, the man God discovered, this individual whom he is excited to share with his people, is committed to exposing and condemning political and religious leaders. He has a propensity to formulate his assault by properly framing the issues so that others can conceptualize what is wrong. He sees the world's leadership as slimy, as muck to be swept away. You are free to discount the prophet's revelation and denounce the possibility that I am the individual of whom Yahowah is speaking. But that will not change anything. God's condemnation of Judaism in particular, and the world's leadership in general, remains. God's name is still Yahowah and very few people know it. His Torah, teaching, Berith, covenant, and Mikra, invitations are poorly perceived, little understood, and scarcely accepted. All one might gain in denouncing me is to pass the mission to another. He will be no more accommodating or soft-spoken. He will not be Jewish, either. And then, you'd 506 be left to wonder how someone would do what we have done without sufficient time to accomplish the mission before Yahowah returns, and it is too late. You'd be left to answer yet another question: why was Yasha'yah inspired to devote so much of his revelation to the role this individual would play in calling Israel home during the last days? If Yahowah does not want you to know him, listen to him, even trust him. The prophet interjected himself into the discussion at this point. He was excited that Israel's misguided leaders were finally being attacked with a properly conceptualized and formatted plan. He was thrilled that his words were finally resonating with his people. He was also exasperated that there was no one among Israelites willing to report his revelation, understand it, or concur with it. No one was willing to speak out and none were willing to listen, at least initially. Who reported this? My Nagad, who provided this report and made it public and conspicuous, right from the source in the first place, and from the beginning, Min Rosh, first of all and as a priority, so that we might know and understand, Yada, so that we can elect of our own free will to become aware of the ongoing consequences and actually acknowledge Yada, calcohortative imperfect, beforehand, prior to his appearance, Min La Pana. Then, we would be able to say, Ma, this is correct, Zadik, it is right, from one Kesser, whereas the Mount reads he is right. Surely it is disheartening, it is also disappointing, there was no one, willing to convey this message, Nagad, who reported this, and none who would have listened, Afin Shama, and, therefore, no one who would have heard, Afin Shama, your words, Emery Motta. Yasha'yah, 41:26. 507. The pronouns as they are presented in this declaration allow for two different interpretations. Initially, I was prone to give all of the credit to Yasha'yah, acknowledging that he was the first to reveal Yahowah's testimony regarding the last days and even of the role God's final witness would play on behalf of his people. But saying so would not be Yasha'yah's style. He would have had no reason to toot his own horn. His relationship with Yahowah was among the best ever enjoyed by men. Therefore, it is more in keeping with this declaration and the prophet's character that he is revealing that the man God chose to convey this message did so early on, and that, in addition to being the first to speak out and publish during the latter days, his assessments are correct. Yasha'yah is exuberant, thrilled that his revelations are finally taking root and bearing fruit. And so it is against this backdrop that Yahowah announces. Initially, Rishon, at the beginning, there is slumber and a lack of awareness, Neum, there was drowsiness and sleep, a failure to be alert. From 1 Kesser versus the mounts, look, there they are, regarding Zion, the signs posted along the way, La Zion. So on behalf of Yerushalayim, while our Yerushalayim, now approaching the source from which guidance regarding reconciliation flows, I am offering and appointing, Nathan, I am giving, bestowing, producing, and placing, Kalim perfect, literally giving for a prolonged period with ongoing implications, a Basar, herald to proclaim this message, Basar, a messenger to bring the good news, a witness of flesh and bones to announce these words and publish this notification, making it known to humanity, Peel participle. Yeh is personally enabling the witness such that the message is delivered in a demonstrable way. Yasha'yah 41:27. 508. There it is. God's decision for all to see, right out in the open in plain sight. There is no mistaking these words. If our eyes and minds are open, then this resolves the lingering questions. For the first time, and without a Israelite to fulfill their role, Yahowah would deploy a herald rather than a prophet. He would be Basar, flesh and bones, a man conveying the news rather than a malach, spiritual messenger. In this regard, Basar is as brilliant as it is crude, perfect in an imperfect way. Basar is almost always rendered as flesh in English translations when its primary meaning, which is to be a witness proclaiming and publishing the message, making the announcement known, is seldom considered. This is important because the less articulated and infrequently appreciated primary connotation is the only one which applies in this context. Further, Basar and Gai are similar in that they convey the animalistic, very human nature of man, with all of our flaws and potential. So, God is saying that it is time for one such man to stand up and be accountable, to herald his message, and to convey the good news to those who have been misled and abused for far too long. In context, the rabbis who have imposed their rhetoric over God's testimony, and those who support them, have become repulsive. To counter and constrain their influence, Yahowah is committed to raising up from outside Israel a representative who will formulate and execute the means to destroy the credibility of mankind's religions. Yasha'yah then underscores the realization that, while this message is correct, there would be no one among his people willing to deliver it, and no one willing to listen even if there had been a prophet. With Israel asleep at the absolute worst time, Yahowah is appointing a Basar as a witness to proclaim and publish these revelations on behalf of Yahushalem. 509 But even as he is empowered to speak on behalf of Yahowah for the benefit of Yahushalem, at the beginning, his audience will be few and far between. Initially, God's herald will be only slightly more influential among God's people than was his prophet, Yasha'yah, to whom no one listened during his lifetime. I looked for a long time and saw, Wara, I consistently observed and actually witnessed, Kal imperfect, that there was not a single individual, Wa'inish, not a person, no man, from among them, Wa minalay, of these. There was no one to advise or counsel, Wa'in there was no one to consult with capable of consideration or deliberation, or to return and be restored, Shub, to change and come back, by the word, Dabar, by the message, when I asked this of them, Wa Shalhem, when I called and expected this of them, Kal imperfect. Yasha'yah 41:28. Behold, here and now, Hen, pay attention, they are all deceitful frauds, Shurlhem Arwen, every one of them is damaging the relationship, they are all worthless, corrupt, and dishonest, and are all engaged in a wicked religious cult, so therefore, included in one Kesser, their practices, customs, rituals, and laborious rites, Marsehem, their works and occupations, their goals and accomplishments, will finally come to an end, fees, are over and will cease, no longer existing anywhere on earth. Their representations of their God, Nisekhem, that which they have molded, shaped, and crafted for their religion and idolize, are of a ruinous, vain, and false spirit, Ruwak Towu, are of a confounding, destructive, and mendacious, a confusing, negating, and malignant, invalid spirit. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates and saves, Isaiah 41:29. 510 It has been obvious, and now since Yahowah has affirmed it, let us all agree, the Adonai God who is Hashem, the Holy One, blessed be he, is not Yahowah but is, instead, the ruinous and vain, confounding spirit known as Ha-Satan, the adversary. Judaism, along with Christianity and Islam, are satanic cults. The adversary has long sought to be worshipped as if he were a god, and through these religions, he achieved his arrogant ambition. Thankfully, Judaism in all of its varieties, Reformed, Orthodox, Ultra-Orthodox, and Hasidic, will cease to exist. Its practices, customs, and rituals will never be seen again. Now you can appreciate why I am so aggressively averse to the rabbis, as well as with Christians and Muslims. By listening to them, there is no one listening to God. Even as Yahowah calls his people home, asking them to return so that he can restore the covenant, the rabbinical frauds who are so damaging to the relationship with their delusional cults, are drowning out God's testimony along with the pronouncements of Yahowah's witness. For God's herald to be heard, the rabbis must be silenced. Yahowah's final messenger is from a foreign land, and he is but one against many. And yet, he will prevail because the rabbis he is opposing are for naught, and he was raised up and put in place by God. This fight, while fair, will be entirely one-sided. This has been extraordinary, serving as one of the most pertinent announcements pertaining to our time. The prophecy clearly delineates Yahowah's disdain for rabbis and Judaism, and explains the reason that God chose to deploy a Chota as a witness to reach his people. 511 Taken out of context, the prophecy which follows is often claimed on behalf of the Christian Jesus, when it has nothing to do with the Passover lamb. And in actuality, this ongoing revelation is a continuation and explanation of what we have just read. Pay close attention because here, Hen, is my co-worker, Ebed Eni, my associate and servant, the one I am working with, whom I have selected and will uphold, Tamak Barhu, whom I have accepted and embraced because I am supporting and sustaining him, grasping him by the hand to help and influence him, Kal imperfect. My chosen, Bacha Eni, the one I selected, decided upon, and prefer, has accepted who I actually am and enjoys my personality such that he pleases and delights my soul, Ratsanipesh Eni, he is fond of, esteems, and favors my ability to relate to the living by projecting my persona into a person, and he is, therefore acceptable and satisfying to my unique consciousness and character, Kal perfect. I have placed, Nathan, I have assigned and given, bestowed and brought, Kal perfect, my spirit, Ruwak Eni, the feminine and maternal manifestation of my nature and counsel, akin to light and therefore energy, capable of empowering, enriching, enlightening, educating, and equipping, able to nurture, guide, protect, perfect, and adopt, providing the capacity to transcend mortality, to be courageous, to understand, to be inspired, and to communicate effectively and forthrightly, upon him, al-Hu, on, over, and before him. As a result, Ken, for as much then reliably, and justly, from one Kesser, he will bring forth and extend, Yasha'yah, he will serve to spread and disseminate, hyphal imperfect, his consistent approach will enable the Gaon to be more discerning regarding the methods he uses to make 512 informed and rational decisions regarding the means to resolve disputes, Mishpat, the basis he deploys to exercise good judgment regarding being right, fair, correct and just. One Kesser is suffixed in the third person masculine singular. On behalf of, La, the people from every race and place, Hagaim, the nations and ethnicities, Yasha'yah, freedom and salvation are from Yeh, Isaiah 42:1. Up until the closing statement, this could have been written of David. He was one of Yahweh's most accomplished servants. God clearly chose and upheld him. They, as father and son, were enamored with one another. We were even told at the time of his anointing, when Daud was 8 years old, that he was immersed in Yahweh's spirit. And having recently reviewed the 119th Mizmowr, we know that the Mashiach, Messiah effectively communicated the means he used to make informed and rational decisions, especially when they pertain to Yahweh's means to resolve disputes via the Mikra. But it will not be until his return that Daud will reach beyond God's people, and even then, he will be king of those who have embraced the covenant. However, this prophetic portrait has not been about Daud but, instead, about the last witness, a Basar, herald Batcher, selected by Yahweh to confront the rabbis and awaken his people prior to his return. When we combine what we have read leading up to this pronouncement with what Yasha'yah declared regarding the Towrah, every word applies to him, including the outreach to people the world over. Further, God's witness is not judging the nations. He is offering people the means to make the right decision about Yahweh's Mikra so that they are not judged. For those of us in the covenant, it is the second of these four statements which brings both great joy and tears. 513 inches, a world of nearly 8 billion people, not 1 in a million has accepted Yahweh for who he actually is and for what he is genuinely like. Those of us who have, snuggle up to him, reach up to grasp his hand, talk and walk with him as our father and friend. We are comfortable in his presence because we find him welcoming and engaging, encouraging and entertaining. Yes, Yahweh is fun to be around. He is the ultimate conversationalist. He is accepting of his children, not judgmental, because he sees the best in us. God is amazingly supportive, he is empowering and enriching, enlightening and emancipating, always interested in what he can do for us, in what he can provide to us. We do not set God on a pedestal, and we never worship him. We do not fear him, and we seek to learn from him rather than obey him. We relish the realization that he wants to get down on his knees to lift us up, not the other way around. He is as good as it gets. And all we have to do to experience this is to toss aside the fearsome religious perversions of his nature and come to appreciate our Heavenly Father as our dad and benefactor, our best friend, and he is excited, indeed delighted, to do the rest. This is why I translate, speak out, and write. I love him. And I want you to know Yahweh as I do. As we move on, we find that the explanation of what this witness will accomplish, what he will avoid, and the consequence of doing both, is unique throughout the prophetic discourse. And while Christians misappropriate a tortured variation of the following to imply that it pertains to their misnomer Jesus, that supposition is absurd considering what Yasha'yah actually wrote. That said, this clearly isn't germane to Daud either. As such, it becomes obvious within this context that this is descriptive of Yahweh's last witness, his chosen Basar, herald. 514 He will not continually cry out, nor will he ask for help, call for assistance, shriek in distress, or wail in sorrow, lo tsayak, kal imperfect. He will not be accommodating or accepting, and as such, he will not be lifted up, becoming prominent, while lo nasa, kal imperfect. And his voice and message, kal hu, will not be heard to the point that it is listened to, while lo shama, hyphal imperfect, in public places such as outside in the streets, bar ha homes. Yasha'yah, 42:2. This stem which has been obtained, the branch which has been procured to redeem, Kaneth, will be maltreated and challenged, harassed and opposed, even be wrongly accused, ratsats, kal participle, but he will not suffer or be grieved, he will not be broken or cease, neither injured nor harmed, lo shaba, kal imperfect. This restoring and healing, glowing, wakia, linen wick, pishtar, will not be quenched, extinguished, or snuffed out, lo kaba, peel imperfect Joseph. He will reliably, honestly, and dependably, hular emith, serve by bringing forth and disseminating, Yasha'yah, hyphal imperfect, the way to make informed and rational decisions pursuant to the proper means to be right, encouraging the exercise of good judgment, mishpat. Yasha'yah 42-3. He will never be incapacitated, lose his intensity, or become disheartened, always expressive and exuberant. He will not be restrained, kal imperfect. The witness providing this restoring testimony, ed, will not be meaningfully opposed or suppressed, challenged or thwarted, even troubled or discouraged, while kal imperfect, while he is in the process of offering, confirming, and setting out the means to be 515 judgmental by making sound decisions about what is right, mishpat, kal imperfect active, throughout the land, Baha Eres, and for those who are desirous along the coastlands, who are confidently anticipating and expectantly awaiting, Yakal, Peel imperfect. 1 Kesser speaks of inheriting his teaching and guidance on the Torah, La Torah Hu. Yasha'yah, freedom and salvation are from Isaiah 42:4. There are so many nuances among the terms used in this depiction of the life of Yahweh's messenger that I thought it best to move all of them into the forefront. And while I would not expect each to resonate with you as they do me, I have just seen my life over these past decades flash before my eyes. As the sun began to add its rosy hues to the puffy undersides of the clouds on the eastern horizon, looking toward Israel, I arose with the light. An hour later, at 7 here in the Virgin Islands, the first long rays of the sun are beginning to glisten on the water and streak through the palms as the trade winds cause their fronds to shimmer. It is during these fleeting moments, while composing this translation, that the full impact of God's pronouncement finally begins to dawn on me. My life will continue as it has been, every sparkling and inspiring moment, until Passover in 2030, when I hope to be joining Yah in Yerushalayim. Indulge me a moment longer. There is a difference between what I understand and what others may currently know, which will soon evaporate. I have been doing this, composing these translations while sharing the insights which can be derived from them, since Towrah in 2001, nearly 22 years ago, almost every day, 10 to 12 hours a day. I can appreciate almost everything Yahweh is revealing through Yasha'yah because I see God, His Towrah, Barith, and Mikra through similar eyes. And over the past 5 years, I have witnessed a long and prominent presentation 516 of the role Yahweh would have me fulfill on behalf of His people. So, when I am exposed to yet another affirmation of this, it simply reinforces and augments all that I've come to understand previously. That said, you may disagree and think that I'm being presumptuous, that Yahweh is speaking of a different Chota, another Nakri, some other Gawi serving as the last Zarawah and final Basar. Okay, who? And if he is currently unknown, then why did Yahweh have his prophets speak so vociferously about revealing the identity of the final herald? With only 10 years remaining, and perhaps 6 to the Towrah harvest, and with so much to learn and share, how would it even be possible? And if someone else, God's frustration with his people and his desire for them to walk away from religion and politics to him does not change, the message remains the same. So, what would anyone gain by believing that the Chota, Nakri, Gawi, Zarawah, and Basar remains unknown, even as the time for his message to be known ticks away? I have already invested 22 years to comprise more accurate and amplified translations, and all the while, no one else has ascertained the proper pronunciation of Yahweh's name. No one outside of our readership understands the conditions and benefits of the covenant and realizes how each is fulfilled and enabled through the Mikra. We were the first to explain Yahweh's timeline, publishing when he will return and with whom. No one else has completed one book on these topics, much less 30. No one else has participated in 5,000 radio interviews or hosted another 5,000 programs devoted to understanding the Torah wa Nabi. And we are the first in 2,500 years to declare that Daud is the Son of God and Messiah, the Passover Lamb and returning King. 517 While it is apparent who Yahweh chose to deliver this message to his people, there weren't any other candidates. It wasn't an honor, just a distinction in that I was willing when others were not. From there, I've put in the effort, but Yahweh has supplied the answers and inspiration. This has been a spiritual undertaking in concert with what was revealed about the Chota. And if not, perchance, Yada Yahowah, are you going to assume that God isn't going to fulfill these promises? Since he is on record stating that he is going to work through a Gentile, it does not leave him with much time or many options. And do you really believe that he is going to stand back and let rabbis have the last word? Is Yahweh going to neglect his people and hope that after 2,500 years they are going to awaken on their own accord and take him seriously? In a world spun out of control, the Basar, herald will seek to restore Israel unto Yahweh, healing the rift between God and his people. With the help of Yahweh's Spirit, he will lead them back to their shepherd, Messiah, and King, the chosen one, Daud, their Savior. And even in the midst of the raging storm, his flickering light will not be extinguished, because like all flax wicks, he is immersed in olive oil, which is symbolic of the Spirit's light. From the moment Yahweh conceived man, he has sought our company. Everything he has done since that time to garner our attention and speak to us has been through the men and women he created. So, there is no reason to expect God to be inconsistent at the 11th hour. Thus says, Koamah, therefore declares, the Almighty, Ha-El, the one and only God, Yahweh, Yahweh, an accurate pronunciation of Yahowah based upon his Torah instructions regarding his Yasha'yah 518 existence. 1 Kesser repeats El, who created, Bara, who conceived and brought into existence, uniquely fashioning and forming for the first time, Kal participle, the universe and spiritual realm, Ha-Shamaim, the heavens, the atmosphere, the stars, and the abode of God, and then expanded them, 1 Atahem, enlarged them. Extending them by inflating their size, Kal participle, while stamping and spreading out, Raka, hammering out and overlaying, Kal participle, the material realm along with the earth, Ha-Eres, the land, and that which is produced within it, what Sitsem high, what is conceived and evolves, coming to exist from it, who provides, Nathan, who gives and places offering, Kal participle, a conscience, Neshama, the capacity to reason. The ability to think rationally, the aptitude to distinguish between good and bad, right and wrong, truth and deceit, for the family, La-Ha-Am, on behalf of the people who are related, upon it, Al-Hai, within her, in addition to, Wa, the spirit, Ruach, the maternal nature, power, and influence of God, the breath of God, and the ability to identify with Yah, to those who walk with her, La-Ha-Holik by High, for those who travel through life pursuing her in a demonstrable way, actually conducting their life in association with her, Kal participle. Yasha'yah 42-5. I am, Eni, Yahweh, Yahweh, an accurate pronunciation of Yahowah based upon his Torah instructions regarding his Yasha'yah existence, excluded from 1 Kesser. I have invited you, calling you out to meet with you and welcome you, Kara Otter, I have summoned you, welcomed you, and read and recited to you, Kal perfect, with the means to be right and to be vindicated, Bar Zardak, so that you can be correct and acquitted based upon that which is accurate and fair, honest and just. 519 I will firmly grasp you by your hand, empowering and strengthening you, Wa Chazak bar Yod Otter, I will be strong for you, enabling you, restoring you by my hand, Hyphil imperfect. And I will protect you, keeping you safe, Wa Nazar Otter, I will spare and preserve you, keeping you out of harm's way, so that you can branch out and grow, always watching out for you. Then, I will give to you, Wa Nathan Otter, I will offer to you and appoint for you, producing and bestowing for you, accordingly, La, therefore, and to approach, the covenant, Varith, the family-oriented relationship agreement, for the family, Am, for those people who are related, as a light, La or, as a brilliant luminary for enlightenment, for people of other races and nations, Gauim, Gentiles, Yasha'yah 42-6, to open eyes which have been blinded, La Paka Ein Iwa, to facilitate sight, improving the vision of the impaired, such that the unenlightened and ignorant might see, to bring out and liberate, Yatsah, to extend oneself to serve and free, those whose freedoms have been constrained by political or religious influences, Min Mascaresia, those held against their will and shut off without the liberty to express themselves openly, obligated by oath of allegiance, tied up by restrictions and bound to comply with the edicts of others, from Ma, to question the implications of Sagar, being shut out and closed in, from places of confinement, Min Baith Kelly, from captivity and from being a possession under the authority of others, incarcerated, from Kala, to be held back, restricted and restrained, withheld and shut up, and those who endure darkness and confusion, Yashab Choshik, who dwell in obscurity where there is less light, hiding in the darkness as hope grows dim. Yasha'yah 42-7. I am, Eni, Yahweh, Yahweh, an accurate transliteration of Yahowah based upon his Torah 520 instructions regarding his Yasha'yah existence. That is my name, Hu Shem Eni, this is my personal and proper designation. My significance and status, my presence and dignity, Wakabaud Eni, my personal nature and abundant reward, my honor and reputation, my unique distinction and overall importance, I will not give, Lo Nathan, I will not bestow or offer, to another, La-Achar, to that which is different in any way, nor my illumination and renown, Tehillah Eni, my attributes, appreciation, and light, my adoration and praiseworthy nature, even resulting laudation, from Halal, brilliant light which clearly shines and illuminates, to representations of gods, Laha Pasil, to idols and images claimed as divine, religious symbols and statues. Yasha'yah 42-8. The first and foremost things, Ha-Rishon, the initial and primary things, to pay attention to, Hineh, to behold and notice, have come to be, Bo, have arrived, having been pursued and happened, and, Wa, that which is renewing and reaffirming, Chadash, that which is not previously known, from Chadash, to renew, restore, reaffirm, and repair, I am openly declaring, any nugget, I am conspicuously reporting to inform, making known and expounding upon, before, Barterim, they unfold, Zamak, they sprout and grow, so you may listen, Shama Ethatam, so that you may hear of them. Yasha'yah, freedom and salvation are from Yahowah, Isaiah 42:9. If you do not know and use Yahowah's name, you do not know him and he does not know you. A god by any other name is not God. He is Yahowah, and he will never answer to the Lord, Adonai, Hashem, God, blessed be he, Jesus, Christ, or Allah. He does care what we call him. And he only has one name, Yahowah. 521 Our universe was created in a Big Bang, beginning with light energy which cooled and coalesced into matter, and Yahowah was responsible. His accounting is accurate relative to the order of events and the length of time. And then he conceived life, authoring the DNA code which makes its many variations possible. If you have not already, if this is of interest to you, read Yada Yahowah Volume 1, beginning, where this is all explained. It is only within the past century that scientists have accepted that the universe had a beginning and thus was created. This realization occurred because they noticed that it was matter, expanding. Raka is an intriguing term when it is deployed to say that God stamped and hammered out the Eres, material realm in addition to the Tzitzaim, life it produced. Matter and life were stamped out, just as books are printed on a press. Matter is just congealed and organized energy, and life is the result of his written code. God gave one life form, people, a neshama, conscience. With it, we can discern between right and wrong, good and bad, and reason our way to Yahowah. We use our neshama to think, to decide, to judge, to be moral, just, fair, and right. With our neshama, conscience, we can understand the Torah, engage in the Berith, and respond to the Mikra, even properly discern the pronunciation of God's name along with the message conveyed by the prophets. While all animals have a nefesh, soul, and the ability to observe and respond to our environment, only humans were given a neshama, conscience. Along with life, free will, and his guidance, our conscience is among God's greatest gifts. We can use it to connect with and learn from the Ruach, spirit. Please note, while the neshama was given to the people, the Ruach is only bestowed upon those who 522 genuinely walk with her, doing so in a demonstrable way. We use our neshama to accept and engage the Ruach so that we can benefit from her counsel. While addressing the Ruach, spirit of Yahowah, it is important that we realize that Ruach is feminine and represents the maternal aspects of Yahowah's nature. The feminine pronoun, hi, she, was deployed here to affirm her place in our lives. Kara, to invite and call out, to read and recite, to meet and to welcome, should remain at the forefront of our thoughts as we approach Yahowah. He has Kara, invited us to Kara, meet with him, Kara, calling us away from man's influence to be Kara, welcomed into his home through the Mikra, a title based upon Kara. We find this path by Kara, reading and reciting Yahowah's Torah, Nabi, wa Mizmowr. In this case, Yahowah is inviting us to be Zardak, right? Zardak is the key which opens heaven's door to gain entrance into the covenant. The means to achieving an accurate understanding of God and then correctly deducing what he is offering and expecting in return is found throughout Yahowah's Torah, guidance. Fortunately for us, God's test is not difficult, he provides every answer, and this evaluation is open book. In addition to meaning right, Zardak also conveys that, by being correct, we are vindicated, which is to be acquitted. The Zardak are moral, fair, just, forthright, upright, and righteous. Chazak speaks of strength. The Chazak are empowered and enabled, steadfast and firm. They are also restored, all of which Yahowah is offering. God is also desirous of Nazar, watching over his children, keeping us safe, even saving us. In this way, we can branch out and grow under Yahowah's watchful eye. 523 We, as humans, are born with the Nathan, gifts of life, free will, and a conscience. And we have access to Yahowah's Torah, teaching should we want to accept the greatest gift of all, admission into his Berith, covenant family. Those who agree with its terms and accept his conditions become immortal, perfected, adopted, enriched, and empowered children of God. And that is the greatest gift of all. Especially revealing is the use of or, which as a noun means light, but as a verb means, to shine, to provide sight, to brighten, and to enlighten. This is what Yahweh in the Berith become on behalf of a dark world, enlightening Goam rather than antagonizing them. By being as Yahowah has asked, and by reflecting on what he is offering, the covenant family will enable the blind to see, opening the eyes of those who have been ensnared by religion, and duped by politics. When our eyes are opened, we can be free of the means the religious and political have used over the ages to control their subjects. And that is the great contrast between God and man. Religious institutions and governments control while Yahowah liberates. Those in power subdue while God lifts up. While control and subjugation, caste systems and slavery, have been the hallmark of civilization since the beginning, the political have discovered a new weapon to deploy against the general public. With the distribution of a virus only marginally more lethal than the flu, liberal and progressive politicians managed to deprive people the world over of their liberty and livelihoods, destroying people's will to work, their mental health, eroding national economies and currencies in the process. And in the end, they made a bad situation substantially worse while accomplishing nothing of value. 524 Mind you, Yahowah encourages us to wear masks and practice good hygiene and social distancing in the presence of pandemics, so I am in favor of isolating those who are infected per his instructions as opposed to exposing them to the most seriously ill by putting them in hospitals. And vaccines are among man's most life-enhancing achievements. But nothing good comes from the few imposing their will on the many. And this is what we see in Masker, constraining freedoms, and Kelly, shutting people up, restricting and restraining them. The single most egregious and debilitating crime ever perpetrated by the religious is the removal of Yahowah's name from his testimony. Second unto that is their misappropriation of his character and reputation. And they did both in spite of God's warning. Alas, it would be hard to recognize either crime based on the errant wording of the KJV, I am the Lord, that is my name, and my glory will I not give to another, neither my praise to graven images. Lord isn't in the text, and it isn't a name. This, from the nays, is no better. I am the Lord, that is my name, I will not give my glory to another, nor my praise to graven images. Giving substance to the notion that there is a conspiracy to hide the truth, the NLT crafted, I am the Lord, that is my name. I will not give my glory to anyone else, nor share my praise with carved idols. So, the moral of this story is that you can't trust religious people. Since we can trust Yahowah, and there is a second reference to his Torah in this chapter, let's turn to it now. And when we do, we find Yahowah affirming what we have known for some time, the Haredim observe the Talmud, such that they are not Torah observant. You have seen, Ra, you have viewed and witnessed, paying attention to, Kal perfect active infinitive, from one Kesser, the rabbis, Rabbim, but, Wa, you are not 525 observant, Lo Shema, you are not closely examining or carefully considering the evidence, Kal imperfect. The ears, Erzan, are open, Hakek. From one Kesser, but, Wa, they do not hear, while Lo Shama, they do not listen, Kal imperfect. Yasha'yah 42:20. Yahowah, a transliteration of Yahovah as instructed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher existence, was willing, even desirous, Chafetz, was inclined and would have preferred to have expressed his purpose and plan by voluntarily choosing, Kal perfect, for the sake of, Laman, on account of, being right and his sense of honesty and fairness, justice and desire for vindication, Tzedek Hu, him being correct, to promote, Gadol, to show the magnificence of the nurturing, empowering, enriching, and enabling source of growth for the children reared by, Hyphal imperfect, the Torah, teaching and guidance, Torah, source of instructions and directions, and to demonstrate its worth, Wa Adar, and to show that it is admirable and expansive, magnificent and honorable, impressive and laudable, Hyphal imperfect. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates and saves, Isaiah 42:21. The Haredim may be restricted to kosher phones, but nonetheless, God has their number. He realizes that they look to their rabbis and not to him. They listen, but only to trash. They are like young boys whose minds are being poisoned by the grotesque lyrics of rap artists. If you are religious and want to remain spiritually paralyzed by continuing to ingest rabbinic neurotoxins, then perhaps, that is not such a bad idea. It might even provide an unexpected benefit. Not only will the rest of us be rid of the religious stench, but you also be anesthetized and won't mind the hellish isolation of Shaul nearly as much as someone who isn't similarly sedated. Surely, I jest, or not. 526 Yahowah's preference has always been for us to listen to him by reciting his Torah. It should be music to our ears and food for our souls. By doing so, we become right with God. With the Torah being the most valuable document in the universe, one of God's greatest gifts, it's surprising that Yahowah needs to laud its worth or promote its merit. However, that is what we find in these words. The last 2 of the 12 times Yahowah presents the enduring merits of his Torah in his revelation through the prophet Yasha'yah, occur in the 51st chapter. It begins, listen, Shama, choose to actually pay attention and hear, opening your ears, Kal imperative, to me, Eleni, those who are palpably pursuing, Radaf, those actually focusing upon and exerting considerable effort to move toward, Kal participle, being right so as to be vindicated, Tzedek, becoming acquitted by being correct. Those seeking to know, Bakosh, those inquiring about and searching to learn information regarding, those searching for, Peel participle, Yahweh, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by his Towrah, instructions regarding his higher existence, should be observant so as to interpret and understand by looking, Nabat, should choose to pay attention, to consider and to demonstrate their regard, hyphal imperative, to the rock, Towrah, the crag of the prominent rock summit. Speaking of Mount Horeb where the Torah was revealed, the rock cliff, speaking of Golgotha where Passover was fulfilled, and the enclosure, speaking of the Garden of Eden where the relationship began, you were cut out of, set apart from, and engraved, Chatsab, you 527 were cleaved, separated, and inscribed, Paul perfect, the object is passively affected at that moment. And, Wah, 2, L, the chiseled out, Makabah, cistern, war, source of water carved out of rock, from which you were hewn out, Nakar, from which you were dug out, Paul perfect. Yasha'yah, Yahweh delivers, Isaiah 51:1. Yahweh is making this interesting for us so that we are willing to invest the time required to be right about him. By pursuing God in a demonstrable way, we can be vindicated, which is the intent of his Torah. As always, Yahweh is encouraging us to be observant, interpreting what we read so that we can understand what he is offering and expects in return. And in this case, God is saying that we are special, cut out of the very rock upon which his Torah was inscribed for our benefit. We were hewn to be with God, and to be like God. Should you wonder why Yahweh challenges us by including metaphors like rocky summits and carved cisterns, they exist for two reasons. Being adopted into God's family, and being invited into his is personal and forever. Yahweh wants to spend eternity and share his abode with those who are sufficiently intrigued by such symbols to appreciate why God chose them rather than with an assortment of apathetic dimwits. By demonstrating that we enjoy learning, that we want to explore his word and go wherever he leads, we reveal that we would be great house guests and travel companions by being intellectually curious. After all, if those sufficiently irrational to be religious were allowed into heaven, it would get boring in a hurry. And before long, heaven would begin to lose its appeal. And second, exploration is fun. It is how we learn and grow. It makes living interesting, and it gives purpose to the universe. And it is something God enjoys. Therefore, we 528 should not be surprised that Yahweh prefers spending his time with like-minded individuals. When it comes to symbols, few are as relevant to our participation in the covenant as Abraham and Sarah. Observe so as to properly interpret and understand by looking, Nabat, choose to pay attention, to consider and to show your appreciation, hyphal imperative, 2, L, Abraham, Abraham, merciful and enriching father or father of uproarious multitudes your father, Abatam, and 2, L, Sarah, Sarah, to contend or engage with, to wrestle or endure with, who waited, expecting you, and then bore you, Kilatam, who served as your mother while also changing your thinking and perspective, bringing you to this place by experiencing the pain of labor and the joy associated with the birth of a new life, Pole imperfect. For indeed, KY, this is important so pay attention, I invited him to meet with me, Kara Hugh, I called out to him, I summoned him, I met with him, and he encountered me, Kal perfect, suggesting a literal interpretation of a completed act, as a single individual, Echad, as a unique and solitary person. But then, Wah, I blessed him, Barak Hugh, I knelt down in love to favor him, Peel imperfect, and, Wah, I caused him to become numerous and great, Rabah Hugh, I enabled him to be much more than he previously was, empowering and enriching him, causing him to have many descendants, and facilitating their continued existence, hyphal imperfect. Yasha'yah, Yahweh saves, Isaiah 51:2, to this, the great Isaiah scroll adds that Abraham Para, was made fruitful by Yahweh. Those familiar with Paul's letter to the Galatians know that the devil's advocate associated the covenant memorialized in the Torah with Hagar and, thus, with slavery. Methinks Yah does not agree. Further, it was not 529 Abraham's faith which caused him to thrive but, instead, Yahweh's love. Everything we need to know about joining Abraham and Sarah and participating in the covenant is provided in the Torah, including each of God's 5 conditions along with the benefits he provides. Everything was explained to Abraham and Sarah, while God allowed us to listen in. And this is important because what he did for them, he will do for us. That is how one became many. Moreover, here we find Yahweh kneeling down and lifting up, not Abraham. This is an essential insight into the relationship God is offering. Another of the recurring themes within the Torah and prophets is that Yahweh intends to take his covenant family to the very place we began our relationship with God. In Eden, Adam and Chor were once perfect and immortal, and enjoyed a close and personal relationship with Yahweh in paradise. And while that was nearly 6,000 years ago, in less than a dozen years from the time of this writing, with Yahweh's return and the completion of his work, he will bring us back home. The planet will resemble the conditions experienced in the Gan Eden, the protected garden of great joy. Indeed, this is completely reliable. Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of Yahowah, our Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his existence, and our Shalom, restoration, will comfort. Nachem, will demonstrate compassion by consoling. Zion, the place where the signs are posted along the way. He will encourage, demonstrating compassion for. Nachem, all of. Sheol, her deserted and divisive places. Korah, her desolate locations. 530 and even, Wah, her lifeless and barren wilderness. Midbar Simhai, those desolate sparsely populated areas where the word was questioned, will be as. Eden, great joy, that which is delightful and pleasurable, and also, Wah, her desert wasteland. Arabah, her most foreign places where light and darkness are commingled, will be as. The garden enclosure. Gan, the covered, protected, and surrounded environ conceived to encourage life and promote growth, of Yahowah, as directed in his Torah. Teaching regarding his higher existence. Overwhelming happiness, Sasson, exaltation, great gladness, rejoicing, and, Wah, joy, Simcha, pleasure and delight, cheerfulness and gladness, will be found in her. Matzah, will be attained in her, from one Kesser, thankfulness and appreciation. Toda, expressions of gratitude, and, Wah, the sound, Kaul, the voice, of singing with the accompaniment of musical instruments. Zimrah, songs with lyrics and melody. Sorrow, Yargaun, grief and anguish, and, Wah, mourning for the dead. Evil, shall disappear, news, flee away. This concluding sentence is found in the great Isaiah scroll but not in the Masoretic text. Yasha'yah, Yahowah delivers, Isaiah 51:3. Life will come full circle, returning to the place we began. This is the intent of the Mikra of Sukkah, where we are invited to camp out with our Heavenly Father in the areas which is now Eden. We will sing songs and be joyous. Many of them will feature lyrics presented on Zion's signposts as they have served to guide us home. On this day, they will remind us of the path we followed to arrive in this wonderful place, literally heaven on earth. Yahowah has said this many times, but it never seems to be enough. 531 You should choose to listen and pay attention to me so that you respond appropriately. Kashaf eleni, elect to hear me, be alert, ever ready to reply to my request. Hyphal imperative, my people, ameni, even those of nations who have been politically or religiously estranged from me, while ameni, those who have followed leaders other than me. To me, Ella Eni, to me is God. Listen carefully, choosing of your own free will to consider what you hear. Arjan, choose to pay attention, giving serious thought to the message so that you perceive and understand what was communicated, weighing, testing, evaluating, and thinking about what you hear, and then responding. Hyphal imperative, because indeed, for the sign of, the Torah, teaching and guidance, Torah, source of instruction and direction, will come forth from me, produced and disseminated by me. Mineth eni yatsa, it will be extended by me, Kal imperfect. Then, Wah, my means to justifiably resolve disputes and make the correct decision. Mishpat eni, my formula to properly evaluate the evidence and execute good judgment, will instantly shine upon, inspire, and enlighten. La or Raga, serve as a light, thereby guiding, the family. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates, Isaiah 51:4. Listening to Yahowah should be a given, a maxim which is upheld by almost everyone, but such is not the case. And God's appeal is to everyone, from his people to those whose archaic leaders have estranged their citizens from him. Since Shama is God's preferred means to convey listen, we would be wise to consider why he used Kashaf El, and El Arjan in this context. And what we discover is that, while Kashaf has a stronger emphasis on paying attention, its uniqueness is found in the fact that 532 it encourages us to respond appropriately, especially as this relates to replying to his request. Turning to Arjan, we find a deeper focus upon consideration. God wants us to Arjan, give serious thought to his message, coming to better understand what he has communicated. Further, in what may be a surprise to many, is encouraging us to weigh, test, and evaluate what he has conveyed. Therefore, he wants us to know and understand so that we can trust and rely, rather than believe by accepting something on faith. Both were scribed in the hyphal imperative. The hyphal stem tells us that the subject of the verb, and that would be Yahowah communicating to us, causes the object of the verb, which are those listening to the Torah, to be influenced by what they hear and, in the process, become more like God. The imperative mood reveals that our response to him is subject to free will. There is no one forcing us to do the right thing, although there are countless examples of people being compelled otherwise. Since this is the last of the 12 times we witness Yahweh's Torah in Yasha'yah, it is appropriate to reinforce the fact that the title Torah is comprised of Torah, Strong's H8451, from To, H8420, signed, written, and enduring, Torah, H8452, way of treating people, Ta, H8446, giving us the means to explore, find, and choose, Yara, H3384, the source from which instruction, teaching, guidance, and direction flow, which Tub, H8421, provides answers which facilitate our restoration and return. Even our response to that which is Tob, H2895, good, pleasing, beneficial, healing, and right, and that which causes us to become acceptable by Towrah, H2892, purifying and cleansing us, Tor, H8447, so that we have the opportunity to change our thinking, attitude, and direction. 533. And while all of this is fascinating, it's the middle of the preceding statement which is especially germane to our understanding. God is speaking of his return, and he is directly associating himself with his Torah. He says that the Torah will come from him and that the Torah was produced and will be disseminated by him. Yahweh is extending his Torah to us. Therefore, to question the Torah is to question God. To reject the Torah is to reject Yahweh. To ignore or replace the Torah is to do these same things relative to the one who is offering his guidance to us. And please note, Yahweh did not produce, is not bringing, and will not disseminate the Talmud. Religious Jews have a horrible habit of calling their Babylonian Talmud the Torah, but this is a disgraceful lie, one that has led countless Jews to choose men over God. Academics and theologians are also wrong. The Torah came from Yahweh. It was not composed by men, and especially not the J, Javist, E, Elohist, D, Deuteronomist, or P, priestly committee of Cumlatleys. Further, when Yahweh returns, and as a direct result of God providing us with his Torah, we will instantly know how to make the right decision, no matter the circumstance. God will be enlightening us and inspiring us so that we grow to become as brilliant as our Father. And in this way, when we are afforded the opportunity to travel throughout the six-dimensional universe he has created for our enjoyment and are with him in the seven-dimensional spiritual realm, we will be properly guided. This is a powerful and unequivocal affirmation that the Torah is coming with Yahweh when he returns. It, not the Christian New Testament, the Talmud, or the Quran, will enlighten and inspire the covenant's children. 534. My vindication, Tzedek Eni, my correct and honest approach, my sense of fairness and accurate portrayal of the truth, my righteousness and justice which acquits, and my affirmation of what is an accurate presentation of what is right, is near, Karob, is approaching and is now imminent, producing and extending, Yatsah, bringing forth and disseminating, my freedom and salvation, my deliverance and liberation, Yasha'yah Eni, my rescue, prosperity, and well-being. Then, Wah, my Zarawah, my productive and protective shepherds and the one sowing my seeds, Zarawah Eni, my capable arms, the prevailing and effective nature, strength, resolve, and overall ability of my remarkably impactful guides for my flock, my rams who engage and fight to protect and direct my sheep, who are fruitful in my ways, accomplishing my mission, especially when sowing the seeds which advance my desire to nurture my sheep. It is his in one Kaiser and my in one Kaiser and the Mount, while plural in all three, will judge, deciding the fate, leading, Shafot, will arbitrate and litigate, adjudicating and either contending and condemning or defending and acquitting, Kal imperfect masculine plural active. These Zarawah will be continually making informed and rational decisions regarding the people, for me, Eni. Which is why, which is the reason, they should come together and choose to be confident and hopeful, Kawa, they, the are masculine plural, should eagerly anticipate and expect a favorable outcome, Peel imperfect Joseph. Therefore, for my Zarawah, Wa el Zarawah Eni, my protective shepherd and sacrificial lamb, my capable arm, and the one who productively sows my seeds, his in one Kaiser and my in one Kaiser and the Mount, while singular in all three, I want them to wait, eagerly anticipating a favorable resolution which endures, Yakal, my desire is for them to expect and trust this outcome, Peel imperfect 535 Paragogic none, at the will of the speaker, those who wait will benefit. Yasha'yah, Yahweh saves, Isaiah 51:5. We have seen Zarawah from all sides now, including God revealing that there are a number of them. And here, we see the Zarawah working together and for God. They will be deciding the fate of the people, which means they will judge and condemn some while defending and acquitting others. Since Yahweh has revealed the identity and roles of his Zarawah, and since they are all working for God, since they are all tasked with shepherding the Almighty's flock, protecting, nurturing, and guiding the sheep. Those in the know ought to be eagerly anticipating their arrival. In our Father's words, they should come together and choose to be confident and hopeful, eagerly anticipating a favorable outcome. Yahowah wants his family to expect a favorable and enduring resolution, trusting in this outcome because it is God's desire to assure it occurs. As for the Zarowah, they are all present, Moses via the Torah, Daud as king, and the Basar as a witness. This next declaration contrasts the spiritual with the material, the clothed from the naked, the preserved from the decaying, and the immortal from those who will die. Lift up, Nasa, choose to raise, Kal imperative, your eyes, ein atom, your visual outlook and perspective, toward the universe, La ha shamaim, to the heavens, and also, Wah, pay attention to and observe, Nabat, look at and consider, Hyphal imperative, God, El, in the material realm, Eres on earth, from below, Min thakath, within the orderly arrangement of space and time, doing so logically, recognizing that one thing follows the other, and see who created these, Wara Ashabara, and perceive who conceived and made these, from one Kesser as the phrase is not extant in the Mount. 536 For indeed, KY, the universe, Shamaim, the spiritual realm, like, Ka, smoke, a cloud of particles moving about, Ashan, will vanish, Melech, will be dispersed and disappear, no longer seen. And the earth, Waha Eres, the material realm, like, Ka, a physical garment, Bijd, ornate apparel made of material, will wear out, Bala, become obsolete, and will decay and decompose. Then, those who dwell on it, Yasha'yah, those who inhabit it, like, Ka, annoying gnats, Ken, lice, flies, maggots, and mosquitoes will die, Mopth. But, Wah, my salvation, Yasha'yah, my liberation, deliverance and freedom, will exist forever, La Olam Haya, will be forevermore, Kal imperfect. Therefore, Wah, my sense of what is right, fair, and just, my integrity, vindication, and righteousness, Tzedakah, my means to do what is correct, honest, truthful, and beneficial, reasonable and rational, shall never be abolished, Lo Chattath, shall not be abrogated, dismissed, confused, discouraged, broken, or fail, Nifil imperfect. Yasha'yah, Yahowah liberates, Isaiah 51:6. With much of what Yahowah shares with us, we can view his instructions from distinct perspectives, many of which are revealing. The most obvious interpretation of this statement is that the heavens and the earth will one day be destroyed, along with all the painful memories associated with them. This way, God's children will be able to witness a new creation, likely even participate in its inception, and then explore the resulting worlds and life forms with our Heavenly Father, making eternity interesting for all of us. And as exciting as this one is, it's hard to imagine how much better Yahowah will do with our encouragement and with practice. 537 There is an even more intriguing possibility if we render Shamaim as the spiritual realm as opposed to the universe. Ashan, which was translated as smoke, is used symbolically throughout the Torah as a metaphor to depict the fact that, as a result of the Mod Mikrei, purified and redeemed souls rise up to God in heaven as their physical substance is transformed into light and energy. Further, since Ashan can also be translated as a cloud of freely moving particles, it is used symbolically to describe the set-apart spirit's protective covering which surrounds and envelops us. From this perspective, we are free to consider Melech, which tells us that, as spiritual beings, we will be dispersed from the material realm to live in a spiritual dimension, where we will seem to disappear from the perspective of those left behind here on earth. This may be indicative of the upcoming Towrah harvest where the souls of Yahowah's children will vanish as we are summoned to heaven. There is even the possibility that Melech could be revealing that we will be clothed in garments which are designed to cover us completely. This may be a reference to the set-apart spirit's garment of light which makes us appear perfect from God's perspective. There is even the possibility that Melech, as the Hebrew word for salt, is revealing that God is going to preserve our lives, keeping our souls from becoming contaminated and spoiled while adding flavor to our experiences. From this perspective, the covenant's children are the salt of the earth, doing our part to prevent its decay. Reinforcing this, we can read into a more fully amplified rendering of Bijd that the ornate physical garments of those who betray others, tricking them will wear out, unlike those now protecting Yah's children. Indeed, the fancy threads adorning the elite in religious, political, economic, and military institutions will become 538 Bala, useless and obsolete in the spiritual realm because, like all material things, they decay and decompose. While it is neither popular nor politically correct to convey the realization that God is annoyed with vastly more people than he loves, there is no getting around this reality. From Yahowah's perspective, those who are poisoned by religion are Ken, annoying gnats, lice, flies, maggots, and mosquitoes. He wants nothing to do with them and will swat them away. telling in this regard, how Satan is equated to a maggot by Yahowah in this same prophetic book. And most revealing from God's viewpoint, we humans have the lifespan of a flea. We all moth, die rather quickly. This helps explain one of many reasons that he is not troubled by the notion of ridding his home of the transport mechanism conveying a plague from vermin to humans by shortening their already infinitesimal lives. It is akin to us swatting away a mosquito which, if given the opportunity to bite us, is not only irritating, but could infect us with an incurable disease. I, for one, celebrate the idea of a world without flies, gnats, and mosquitoes. In contrast to this, we find that Yahowah is promising that his Yasha'yah, deliverance, freedom, and salvation Hineh, will endure olam, forever. This is because God is dependable, steadfast, and unwavering. He does not change. His Tzedakah, sense of what is right, fair, and just endures forevermore. His vindication is everlasting. That which God has promised in his Torah and through his Nabi lo chatteth, shall never be abolished or abrogated. Such is the distinction between God and man, between the relationship and religion, between the spiritual and material realms. There is no abrogation with Yah. The overt Quranic edict from the 106th verse of the second surah which says that 539 Allah abrogates contradictory verses, replacing the previous message with a more recent and newer revelation, thereby tossing the old one into oblivion, is not part of Yahowah's vocabulary. And while the Christian New Testament isn't as forthright regarding abrogation, such annulments and replacements are nonetheless foundational to the religion's very existence. The alternative to such bewildering nonsense is to choose to consistently listen to me, Shama el-Eni, of your own volition. It is in your interest to decide to hear what I have to say, Kal imperative, to know and understand, Yada, to be shown, to be aware of, to become familiar with, and to learn about, and to acknowledge, Kal participle construct, what is right and vindicating, Tzedek, what is correct, just, fair, and acquitting. People who have, my Torah, teaching and guidance, Torah Eni, my instructions and directions, in their hearts to influence their judgment, Bar Labhem, integrated into their lives, are not impressed by or respect, Al-Yah, are not awed or intimidated by, Kal imperfect Joseph, the defiant taunts, derogatory slurs, and blasphemous contempt, Cherepha, the dishonorable and disgraceful nature, rebuke and reproach, of mortal men, Inaush, of humankind, of common and ordinary people, from Onesh, desperately sick, woefully wicked, and incurable. So, do not be dismayed or confused, al-chatteth, be discouraged or separated, neither awed nor astonished, as a result of, their hateful words, saying dabarimhem, their adversarial messages, from 1 Kesser. Yasha'yah, Yah saves, Isaiah 51:7. Those who listen to God benefit from what his Torah teaches. But by incorporating Yahowah's guidance into our lives and sharing his instructions, we 540 become subject to defiant taunts and derogatory slurs. Almost every religious, political, academic, economic, and media spokesperson on earth is opposed to Yahowah's directions. The institutions which enrich and empower those who blaspheme God all falter and fail when exposed to the Torah. Nonetheless, damn the torpedoes. To us, they are as menacing as the fleeting mosquito, as short-lived as the gnat. Like Daud, we are courageous and bold against all who would speak or fight against Yisrael, Yahweh, and Yahowah. While it is our job to expose and condemn them, the Cherepha, defiant taunts, derogatory slurs, and blasphemous contempt of Inaush, common and mortal men are to be excoriated, not admired, no matter how popular, sanctified, or powerful the lies and liars have become. For here is their fate. For indeed, nocturnal insects who feed on rotting flesh and fabrics, as that which devours pus, dead cell tissues, and discharge from a diseased animal, will consume them, a kalhem, will devour and destroy them, as is the case with their beguiling apparel, kaharbij, as will occur with the robes and suits worn by those who trick and betray, and just as, wakar, wool, sema, is eaten by, a kalhem, moths, sas. But, my vindication and means to be right, Tzedakah Eni, the way I can make those who are correct, innocent so that they prosper with my sense of fairness and justice, endures forever, La Olam Hineh, continues throughout eternity. My deliverance, liberation, and salvation, Yasha'yah Eni, my freedom and victory, is for all generations in all places for all time, La Dawa, for 541 every lineage, classification of person, home, dwelling place, and period of time regardless of when or where a person lives or to whom they are related. Yasha'yah, Yahowah delivers, liberates, and saves, Isaiah 51:8. Indeed, there will be a new world order. The elite who have sought to control others will become worm-eaten, with maggots feeding upon their rotting carcasses and clothing, from the black suits of the rabbis to the white robes of the popes. Their ability to beguile has been terminated. All that remains are the vindicated, those who chose to be right about Yahowah. We, and we hope that you are among us, will endure forevermore. This is true for you and me, for then and now, for here and there. And so, it would be reasonable to conclude that the first and last word on salvation can be found in the Torah. This next statement is not found in Yasha'yah, but it is prophetic and worthy of our consideration. Fair warning, however, it is not only long, it takes us to places YYV3C10 Jews may not have anticipated. It is among the most provocative statements we are likely to find while seeking to more completely understand the Torah's role in our lives and among God's people. This declaration, by addressing a Shah, remnant of Yahowah's people, is projecting us into the future, to the time just prior to Yahowah's return. Those included among the Torah observant are engaged, doing as God has asked of us. I think you will find the list of participants interesting, to say the least. However, those who have distinguished themselves by excluding themselves from the people of the earth, who 542 know and understand the Torah, have yet another mission. They will be tasked with opposing their brethren, particularly Israel's political and religious leaders, in addition to those who have brought the curse of Allah upon Israel. Once accomplished, we will become the literal fulfillment of Shabat, enriched and empowered by Yahowah, when we walk through the pages of His Torah. And, the remnant, Shah, the rest, residue, and remainder, those who are left alive and survive, of the family, of the related people and kin, the Loi who unite, Loi, those who join Israel and Yahowah during the Mikra, the descendants of Yaakov and Leah via Loi known as Levites, serving as priests and mediators, Kohen, those who perform as God directs, interceding on behalf of the family during the mode, the gatekeepers opening the door with appropriate announcements, Soah. Those who stand guard at the doorway serving as attendants to open the entrance by making the appropriate declarations, the lyricists and singers on this journey of discovery, Seer, those who use their voice as an instrument to convey the most melodic words after having traveled to observe and behold, the ones devoted to serving who are offering to work on behalf of the family, Nathan, those bestowed to accomplish the chores associated with the temple. And all who have separated themselves, thereby distinguishing themselves by excluding themselves, Washel Habadal, everyone who has distanced himself or herself by leaving, moving away from, and setting themselves apart, Nephil participle, from, Min, the peoples and nations, Ami, related families, of the earth, Eres of the realms and lands, unto, El, toward the direction of, the Torah, teaching and guidance, Torah, the source of instructions and directions, of the Almighty, Elohim. Along with their wives and women, Ishahem, women, their sons, Benihem, and their daughters, Wabathem, everyone, Shirl, who has 543 come to actually know and genuinely understand, Yada bin, who is familiar with and acknowledges the means to comprehend by being discerning, and discriminating, making the proper connections, Kal and Hyphil participle. Nehemiah 10:28, will be empowered to harshly prevail over, Chazak al, were courageously strengthened and resolutely established to be emboldened and intense in opposition to, Hyphil participle, their brethren, Achem, their relatives and kin even from the same tribe, especially their leadership, the ruling class and those who believe them, Adiahem, the most influential in their society, their elite with grandeur and status, the gaudy and famous, the lords and nobility, the beautiful people who are empowered and sought after, even revered and idolized, along with those who have come with the curse of Allah, Wabobar Allah, and those who have brought divine retribution. And then, fulfill the promise of Shabat, 7 Shabbats wa Shabat, so, therefore, honor the vow of the agreement and sworn oath to enrich and empower in accord with the plan of 7, completing it, by walking, la holak, by approaching the journey through life by making progress, Kal infinitive, in, with and through, the Torah, teaching and guidance, instructions and directions, Torah, the education and advice, supervision and leadership, of the Almighty, Elohim, God, which, to show the proper way to receive the benefits of the relationship and get the greatest joy out of life, Asher, was given, Nathan, was offered and bestowed, was entrusted and provided, Nephil perfect, by, La, the hand, Yod, of Moshe, one who draws out, the servant and co-worker, Ebed, the associate of, God, Elohim. Approach by being especially observant, while Ashamar, draw near and move toward this goal by closely examining and carefully considering, thoughtfully 544 contemplating and evaluating, Kal infinitive, and by engaging in and acting upon, while Eth, approaching by participating in, doing, celebrating, and profiting from, Kal infinitive, all of, Shirl, Yahowah's, Yahowah, an accurate presentation of the name of Eloah, God as guided by His Torah, instructions regarding His higher existence. Instructive conditions regarding what is being offered and expected in return, Eth HaMitzvah, authoritative directions and written instructions which comprise the precepts and terms of what is established, from my, to consider the who, what, why, where, when, and how of Zawah, appointing and constituting the message and enjoining it by shouting out the instructions and directions regarding what has been commissioned. His means to exercise good judgment to justly resolve disputes, wa mishpat hu, his basis for sound decision-making and rational thinking, from my, to consider the who, what, where, why, when, and how of shafot, evidenced and logical discernment, and, wa, his clearly communicated and inscribed prescriptions of what to do in life to live, kuk hu, his engraved thoughts which cut us into the agreement, and the recommendations and requirements regarding his covenant relationship. Nehemiah, Yahowah comforts, Nehemiah 10:28-29. Rather than comment further on Yahowah's declaration, I would simply encourage you to ponder its implications.